Remember that? Somebody sent it to me from Houston.
Oh, really?
I got along with like 7 pages of scenarios on how that we could build the whole promotion around selling his gimmicks because he makes these. He wanted me to adopt a guy as my
Like
son or brother or cousin or illegitimate nephew or whatever. Yeah, I said, well, that's what Casey is. Part of my illegitimate son will now be played by Casey O'Connor. But anyway, so that's what he sent me a whole bunch of gimmicks. This is the only thing I kept because they're sorry I'm late. I know everybody's been excited, waiting breathlessly for my arrival, but it took me 15 minutes to get in the car, as I was telling Brian, and 15 minutes to get out, and traffic, and that was the rest of it. What the heck, what can I say? Is everybody having fun so far?
Yeah.
KC, you're having fun too, aren't you?
Oh, sure.
Okay. What are we supposed to do here today? I thought we just watch tapes and hang out, and if anybody wanted to talk or ask you questions or make comments or whatever. I need a chair though, because I can't stand up for.
This is your question and answer.
Well, I know. Yeah, there we go. Okay.
Jim, what the hell are you doing in New York, Jim?
Okay, who's got a pen? Okay, everybody tell me what we're doing wrong.
Oh, that's easy, Jim.
Oh, now I'm fucking up everybody's video now. JR, will this end up on the next Super Saturday?
Oh, yeah, you will.
Okay. Anyway, what's everybody think so far? Somebody tell me something.
I think that interview you did on Down and Dirty today was the best one I've ever seen.
The Down and Dirty was really good today.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Do you think it was too long, or was a lot of stuff?
No, could have gone longer.
Okay. More. Who's the man? I've been doing that with Jimmy every night in the ring. Tom will give me the introduction. I'll stand up on the ropes. Jimmy will look at me and he'll give me this. I'll say, who's the man? Nobody knows what the heck we're doing because nobody watches their TV.
25 of us know what's going on.
Yeah, we're the dumb bastards still watching that crap.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, through the market.
Well, does anybody want to know anything more about what we're doing and what all of
That would be nice. What are we doing?
Well, we're getting you a haircut, fella, first. But I mean, as far as any questions or anything, or. Actually, he's a Nigerian Louis Armstrong, and no, and let's see, and we're going to call it the Universal Wrestling Federation because nobody's using that right now.
Are you responsible for Herb's debts in Florida, then?
No, as a matter of fact, I think Herb was
not responsible for Herb's debts.
Yeah, you took my line. I was going to say.
What's the matter with you?
Herb may be responsible for I don't know, maybe some prison sentences.
His arrest warrants.
I've never met this guy. Has anybody here met him?
I have.
Well, I figured you had. You've met everybody.
Will Jim Herd be added to your board of directors?
At the same time, all he is.
If we'll let you on it, we'll let anybody on it.
Jim, you have the California contingent here. We'll be on the West Coast.
That's right. We're gonna set up regional board of directors. We're gonna be.
Well, here's the Philadelphia.
Yeah, there you go. We're gonna be the only promotion with board of directors contingents in every state, but we only run in 3.
Well, no, I'm calling the number in the program. I want some dates in California.
Okay.
Hey, we want to take on Smoky Man, heavyweight champion.
Hey,
There you go.
No, Jim.
well, you're gonna have to file a lawsuit for that fella.
Hey, I'm not Carol Luso. I got hair.
Well, speaking of Brian Lee, just send Tammy around.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Jim Herd,
We're going
speaking
on
of
stage.
Jim
He's been
Herd,
around the
Jim,
country. No, I can't say that.
how did the 900 number come about with,
Why don't you ask me?
well,
Hey, you could have took care of all this shit before. You know, everybody made a big deal out of it. I get a phone call one night from Wayne Coulter. And I've got something I want to talk to you about. You know, a message on my machine, right? So I called him back, and I hadn't talked to him in quite a while. He said, well, we're starting a 900 number, and I want you to know Jim Herd is involved. He's going to profit from it, but you will never have to deal with him. I said, the only thing I want to contribute to Herd financially is money for his funeral expenses. But he said, well, it's really going to be good, da-da-da-da-da. I said, instead of, because I think he said they were going to give a percentage of, you know, which they are. I got my first check, by the way, $14 first month. Hey, we're on a roll.
Don't blame me.
Yeah, I'm fucking with him. But anyway, I told Wayne, I said, instead of paying me the percentage or whatever, can you buy some advertising time with Smoky Mountain Wrestling or something on the show or whatever? I didn't know what, you know, the extent of the thing was going to be as of yet. He said, well, let me check, I said, if you can make some money for us over here, you know, I'll do it. Well, then Lance got involved, and Lance called me, and he told, and I love Lance Russell to death, so he told me that, well, you know, we can't pay out any more money until the thing's at least up and running, and we know what's going to happen and how much, you know, advertising and all that stuff. I said, okay. I said, Lance, you're counting. I didn't even know Dave was involved at this point, otherwise than you may or may not have going to be on it, and you know.
Well, I hadn't even decided if I was going to be on it.
Yeah, you know, I mean, this was all before it all went on the air, so I said, Lance, you're going to be counting all the calls, right? Yeah. And you're going to be overseeing everything that's on it, yeah. And I don't never have to talk to Jim Hurd, yeah. I said, okay, I'll do it for a while, and then if it gets going, then you know, y'all advertise on our show or something, and if not, then you know, we'll just do something else or just decide whatever the heck. And so that's how I started doing it, you know. And luckily, well, as a matter of fact, the check for $14 I Xeroxed and didn't cash because it had Hurd's signature on it, and I want to fuck up his bookkeeping.
So you're not bound to it or anything? You could leave any time? And...
Yeah, as a matter of fact, they thought I did 2 weeks ago. I forgot it was Wednesday, and I didn't call and do my thing for Thursday. And Lance called Thursday afternoon like, Jimmy, Lance, partner, I said, oh, yeah, that's what day it is. So, I mean, no, you know, I haven't signed anything. If I signed something, I'd made more than $14. So that's, you know, that's, and everybody made a big deal, and people wrote letters and hopped on Dave and Jiminy Pete. If we'd have put on a stinky show last night, you know, he would have written it regardless of whether, you know, I'm on the 900 number or not, you know, elsewise either that or if he could be bribed for, well, I've got $14 in the pool that I could bribe you with. If you didn't like the show, I'll give you 14 after we get out of here, and you can write you did anyway. But, I mean, everybody's making a big deal out of that. It's, you know, it's, I mean, we're not talking about international espionage and intrigue here. Nobody's making $10 million, so I don't think that anybody's opinion is going to change, and Dave or everybody else involved is going to write or say something that is ridiculous just for the sake of, you know, getting 5 more people to call a 900 number. I mean, it's not worth it.
Maybe they were just jealous they weren't offered to do the 900 number?
Who knows? Who knows?
I wouldn't say that.
You know, I mean, I don't think.
I wouldn't say that.
I said maybe.
I don't think George Bupkis in Idaho that wrote a letter saying, I think this is a conflict of interest, would probably even care whether he's on a 900 number or not, and what would he talk about if he was. So, you know, I don't think that has anything to do with it. I think everybody is taking things a little too seriously these days.
Here.
You know, everybody's writing letters, getting all these political controversies and all this stuff, and you know, what is Wade a major in politics, by the way, or something? What's he studying in school? Debate. Ah, there you go. I'll tell you what, I hate people that argue. I'll tell you that. Right? But you know, everybody jumps on everything like, what will this mean to the world at large? Will the world revolve at a little bit faster pace because somebody, you know, went and made a shot for this promoter and didn't tell this guy, or you know, the whole thing? Everybody makes a big deal out of it, and geez, this business is a lot of times is, you know, like Lance calls me, hey Lance, sure, I'll do it, it's 5 minutes a week or whatever, I'll call up and tape something, or you know, Dennis Corluzzo calls me, Jimmy, can you make the you know, the wrestling show that I got in October with the convention? Ah, sure, Dennis. As a matter of fact, Dennis was planning and still is planning a thing in October, and he, you know, he called me, asked me if I could make it. I said, you know how Dennis is. He goes back and forth on dates because they're trying to plan and, you know, and everything. I said, well, that weekend would be real good for me, but that weekend would be kind of rough. I said, let me know when it's sure, and I'll tell you whether I can come or not. So anyway, both the dates got canceled out, and he's going for later on in the month, which is better for me. But anyway, after he had talked to me, this guy, whoever was running the show, sends me this 3-page contract in the mail. For, you know, it's like, okay, your wrestler agrees. I mean, there's clauses, and if anybody drops over dead, you know, I'm contractually bound to give them CPR or something before they croak. And I mean, all these clauses for this thing. And Dennis called me. I said, Dennis, what in the world is this contract? He said, that guy, I don't know anything about the business. if Dennis calls me and says, okay, can you be here on the 2nd? I say, sure, send me a plane ticket. And that's it. That's all the contracts that anybody ever needed in the wrestling business before all this horse shit got started. And then if I don't show up, then Dennis is pissed at me and he won't use me anymore. And then if I do that to enough people, then they say, you know, well, heck with Cornette.
You're doing TV
Yeah,
commercials.
yeah, and then I'm doing, yeah. Exactly. You know, yeah, I mean, otherwise, you know, if you tell somebody you're going to be there, you know, you're going to be there. And if you need a plane ticket, send me the plane ticket. If you get it, you go. And that's, you know, and you say, oh, what are you going to pay me, Dennis? Well, let's see what kind of business we do. And if it's a friend of yours, okay, you know, I'll trust you. And if it's not, I say, well, I got to have a couple $100. You know, okay, fine, whatever. And just whoever screws whoever, you don't work for them no more, or vice versa. So, you know, so that's the way that the business traditionally worked. And I mean, there was always arguments and fights, you know, because of the level-headed individuals that populate our industry. But for the most part, nobody ever had to have all this daggum, you know, all the contracts and conflict of interest and, you know, heavy type of stuff like that. And now, you know, now people have agents and Jesus Christ, stuff like that. You know, I mean, it's like everybody's trying to be, you know, the next Arnold Schwarzenegger or something for a large part of that stuff. And I just think it's ridiculous. I mean, Jesus Christ. Everybody, that's where I think that even the talent in Atlanta these days and the talent in New York don't have what they used to have when they get in the ring, because they've got the idea now that they're TV stars because they got dolls. And I'm not saying everybody like that, but you know, everybody's got dolls and pajamas with their picture on it and toilet paper, I don't know what else, and everybody starts thinking they're TV stars and they forget that they're wrestlers. We ain't TV stars, we're wrestlers. And TV stars are TV stars, and singers are singers, and singers mostly can't act, and actors mostly can't sing. Look at, what was Scott Baio, for crying, he can't do anything. You know, and I mean, everybody's trying to, you know, get an agent and da-da-da-da-da. And sure, you know, some guys are making a lot more money in this business now than they used to with that outside stuff, and a lot of guys are making a whole lot less. So, you know, it evens out, but, you know, I just think everybody on both sides takes things real too seriously anymore. It's wrestling. You know?
You think a lot of
Wasn't that the name of a column one time in the Ringside Reflector? It's wrestling.
Yeah, yes.
Do you have any comment for the guy from Philadelphia as a program director for SEN now who doesn't want the wrestling show?
Oh, that butthead Bigby screwed up WIP, and now he screwed up tonight.
Was he?
WIP and
Well, no wonder. Now we know the rest of the story, so to speak. Now we know why he doesn't like wrestling. Yeah, that Joel Hartwood, whatever. Well, I think that, you know, people were listening to Mike's show, right?
Yeah.
You know, well, dumb shit, regardless of what he thinks, if he takes a show off of his network that people are listening to and puts on something that not so many people are going to listen to, then he's an idiot. And, you know, he'll soon be hired to be executive vice president of WCW. You know, because he puts his personal feelings ahead of, you know, of his good business. I mean, if you've got a choice of two things and you don't know whether either of them are going to work, then yeah, sure, go ahead and pick the one that you like the best because you may know more about it. But if you already got something that's working there, and, you know, and then just dump it and go, you know, so hopefully, you know, what are they going to do, a double feed?
They're going to do probably a double feed in September, but Mike is also negotiating with another network, so he doesn't have to put up with this stuff again.
Yeah.
He's been through this with these guys 2 or 3 times.
Where they cut him off one time. It was off.
Yeah.
Once and then off.
It was, yeah, he switched networks when he came back. But Resi did it for 1 week, didn't he? Yeah.
No, that's right. That was that, I remember that was like Super Train. It was here and there. And
Yeah.
You know, well, everybody, I just want to say,
You gonna join the NWA?
What now?
You gonna join the NWA?
When's their convention? 3rd?
September 3rd, Vegas.
Could be interesting. But you know, a lot of program people and all this stuff, they don't want people to like that wrestling stuff. So they take it off or they move it around or whatever they do, trying to get people not to like it. And then they get hot when people listen to it or watch it anyway. And then, you know, so they just make whatever decisions. But hopefully if they do the double feed, who knows how many stations will pick up Mike's show versus whatever else. But if more people are listening to the stations that Mike's show's on.
Yeah, but they really don't even know. You know, I mean, you can assume, but they don't, you know, the ratings on those small stations, you know, you never know.
Well, yeah, well, they do their own individual. It boils down to if they wanted to check, they could find out.
Yeah.
You know, the stations do their own individual ratings, but whether they would want to check or not, who knows?
Yeah.
You know. So it's a bunch of shit. What is there, a goose back there?
What's it take to become a member of the board of directors for Smoky Mountain?
You got to live in St. Louis and have a little hair. And no, I returned the favor because Harry one time restrained me from beating up the sound man in the keel, and I just wanted to return the favor by, you know, nominating him to the board of directors.
What was this all about? What happened?
Well, you know, everybody knows, you know, how long it takes me to get really mad about anything. And one night I was trying to make an announcement or something on the microphone, and they said, "Who was that guy, Harry?"
One of the union technicians. They have to have so many union technicians to handle everything to keel, and this guy was probably an hour short of retirement.
Yeah, you know,
Didn't they make some rule there that like no wrestler can talk on the mic or something?
No, well, they did, but I think that was a company rule, and this was, it had nothing to do with it. I think this.
yeah. Well, besides that, I wasn't a wrestler. I was a manager. Welcome. But anyway, so I'm starting to say something, and this guy's trying to take a microphone out of my hand in front of all these people. And you know, he didn't get it, number one, and number two, he almost got killed. I started. Harry said it was. What did you say last night?
It was like all of a sudden you and Bobby got Tourette syndrome or something.
Yeah. He said it was the best cuss job in the shortest period of time he'd ever seen. And I wanted him to fight me, but I wanted him to swing first where, you know, people would see that where I couldn't get sued too bad. And then Bobby came around. I'm like, "Bobby, get out of here. He won't fight me with you." Or, you know, yeah. And so we passed him. We like just made circles around the ring until we turned into butter cussing him every time we passed by, you know. But so just, you know, Harry, I think, threw himself over the guy to protect him so that I wouldn't get thrown in jail or something.
Cowered behind me when you went out.
Actually, when I was in the dressing room at Tequila, I thought that I was thrown in jail. Have they torn that place down yet, or did dry rot beat them to it?
After your complaints about the dressing room, they did tear it down and rebuild it.
Okay.
They do a good job of it.
I always liked riding the elevator, especially when they push that rock off the ledge and the rope would tighten up. But, well, what else is going on?
Watched some CCW here earlier.
Oh, who has the? You got the Sensuous Stacy video. I will see that before I leave. Right? Okay. Okay.
What kind of deal do you have with Watts before they screwed it up?
You know, see, that's the same thing. They couldn't understand. You know, I love Bill Watts. I think he's the greatest thing in the world, and by gum, you know, he's done wonders for me. And sure, he has his own opinions, but that's one problem they have down there now is they've got nobody. You know, okay, you come up to me and you are one smidgen of 1% higher on the corporate ladder or make $5 a year more than I do, so automatically whatever you say is right, and it goes on like that. Nobody will disagree with anybody. Well, Bill Watts, if he thought something was a crock of shit, he'd say, "Excuse me, that's a crock of shit." You know, he wouldn't say, "Well, I don't think we should do that at this particular time." He'd say, "No, stick it up your ass." And that's what they need. One guy has to run the daggum company, at least as far as wrestling is concerned, and set the policy that other people can carry out. So he had called me. I don't know, you know, it'd be a 45-minute story, all the conversations back and forth, but he called me for one reason, to see, you know, we were doing okay and had some talent up here and some guys that they thought could do something, and would we be interested in letting them use some of our guys on TV or making some shows or whatever the heck, and, you know, what did I think about this, because, you know, everybody else down there will just say whatever they think that they want to hear so that they don't get fired this week and, you know, whatever. And so I told him that, you know, I thought this and that and the other thing, and yeah, sure, you know, anything, as long as he had full control, then we could do whatever, because if I knew if he told me something, then that's the way it would be, and, you know, if anybody else told me anything, fat chance, you know, it could change in an instant. So the deal was going to be, first, I said, geez, I said, the only thing that people still believe is that there's heat between the different promotions. That's the only thing about the business that everybody still believes, because it's true. So why not use that and act like that we just had flipped out, as, you know, people would expect me to do, and go down there and storm in and be hot about something because they, you know, try to make us look like idiots and say a bunch of bad things about the company, and, you know, and make it like, geez, these guys have taken over the daggum show. And that's what we did. Well, when you know, when everybody else saw it down there, they went nuts. And at Super Brawl, Eric Bischoff walked up to me oh yeah, and you know, as a matter of fact, he was right next to a wind tunnel, and his clothes were blowing out this way, and his nose was blowing out that way, and hair was fucking solid. But anyway, he walked up, and I said, Eric, I said, I got to ask you a question. What? It was the first words I'd ever spoken to him. I said, what's the deal with what was the deal with editing out the interview and everything? Well, there were some people here that just thought that was strong statements to make about the company and, you know, da-da-da. I said, listen, I said, here's the whole thing. I said, you're sitting at home. You're watching the show. You hear Jim Cornette, who doesn't even work for WCW, say that they cheated him and lied to him and there were a bunch of crooks and whatever else the heck that we said. What are you going to think? Well, I wouldn't know what. No, you're going to think that, geez, there's no way that WCW would let this fucking idiot come out here and say shit like that unless he had just stormed out here and they didn't know this was going to take place. Because nobody would let anybody say stuff like that about their own organization on TV, which is exactly why you do it. Because then everybody will think, Jesus Christ, what did you hear what he said? And they'll talk and they'll believe it. And then if they believe that, then they might believe that we're mad at the Rock and Roll Express and we're trying to beat them up because they made us look bad going down there and da-da-da-da-da, and then you might draw some money accidentally. And he said, well, you know, if you had been here to argue your point, then, you know, we might have seen. I said, well, I didn't need to be here because I'd already told Watts. I said, you went, because they went around Watts' back. He didn't know they edited it. He did not know they edited it. I'm the one that told him, as a matter of fact. And everybody said, and a lot of people say Bill Watts got fired. Bill Watts didn't get fired. Bill Watts got demoted, correct?
Demoted first, yeah.
Yeah, he got demoted first, and then it was one of those deals where, like, he said, you know, they said, well, you can be fired if you don't like it. He said, well, I can't be fired because I quit. I'm going fucking home. He told me twice in the week beforehand, he said, you know, I'm going home. It's not worth it. You know, so what they did was they did that purposely to get rid of him because they knew that he wouldn't stay unless he had control, because then he'd have to put up with the rest of their, you know, idiocy. So that's the whole story there. What we were going to do was, after we did that, then, you know, we would send guys down for their pay-per-views to make them special. You know, we would get some guys up here. We'd recognize their world champions. They'd recognize us maybe as regional champions, whatever. But there wasn't going to be anything written up in a contract. You know, it was just going to be, he would call me up and say, hey, you know, can we do this? Yeah, that sounds good. You know, I'd write it in my book and he'd write it in his, and that's the way we'd do it, you know.
And Vince and company was watching all along to see what went wrong, or how did this come about with Titan now?
They called us up and said, hey, you know, would you and the Bodies be interested in making a couple of shots? I said, well, we're kind of busy, you know. And, because, I mean, you know, I knew that they had to want something, but I didn't, you know, why all of a sudden, right, you know. But, so I just said, yeah, you know, we'd be interested in it if we can work it out. What, you know, what type of thing would it be? Can we mention Smoky Mountain Wrestling? We don't want people to think that, Lord, I didn't know how much many people think. We don't want people to think that we'd gone up there and just, you know, dropped everything here, right? I said, well, we could mention it. You know, I said, I don't expect it to belabor the point, you know, Smoky Mountain Wrestling, you know, da-da-da-da-da, but enough to get the point across.
You did this morning.
Yeah.
Very well.
Yeah, the Smoky Mountain Wrestling infomercial.
Yeah. Face to face surprised me, but then when you were mentioning feuds with Jerry Lawler, Bill,
That was incredible.
It was true.
Yeah.
Well,
you know,
but to hear it on a WWF show, just, holy shit.
And well, anyway, I'll get to that. Remind me of that point. Just say, remind me of that point. But anyway, so back and forth we talk. At first, maybe they wanted us to wrestle with Smoking Guns. And okay, you know, we can get something out of it, you know. But then they said, well, what about the Steiners? Well, hey, that'd be great, because I love the Steiners. Then, you know, they said, well, okay, da-da-da, we'll do SummerSlam. Can y'all come up for TV? Okay, great. We can mention Smoky Mountain Wrestling. Sure, no problem. Okay. I didn't know how much money I was going to make before I went up there. And to be honest, I told Wade Keller I'd rather been to Jefferson County Fair, right? I mean, it wasn't a big money deal. I didn't even ask them.
After $14, you know, you can't.
Yeah, after $14, anything looks good. But, you know, we went up and did the TV. Everything they said they were going to do, they did. We did the spots for the WWF show. You know, they put us over on TV. They talked about Smoky Mountain Wrestling. When I got up there and I sat down that day, that's when they said, well, you know, we were thinking, you and Yokozuna, and I, okay, you know, just today it came up, but you know, I mean, I've always said to everybody I'd do anything in addition to, you know, managing my team or doing Smoky Mountain or whatever, that, you know.
But what happens if you see that it goes sort of in the direction how it happened with Jarrett's in Memphis, with the talent exchanges, like starting out with the bushwhackers or useless people?
Well, see, that's the thing. If I don't want the bushwhackers, then I don't get the bushwhackers, because they're not saying, okay, you got to take so and so. It's not the you know, the Wrestler of the Week club. It's like, do we have some talent that y'all would like? Well, you know, yeah, sure. Boy, it'd be great if the Steiners came down on July the 4th or whatever. Well, we'll see if they're free. If they're not, then if there's somebody else we want, we'd ask about them, and if not, we'd say, okay, we'll do it next time. So it's not like they're going to send people down here, because that would, number one, be a slap in the face to our regular guys. Mm-hmm. Number two, if it was somebody that nobody was going to pay to see, then it's pretty dumb on our part. And number three, there's nothing any more special about it if you have somebody on every show. You know, now if we had the Steiners come down after SummerSlam, we say, hey, now we're going to get them in our backyard where things will be a little bit different. You know, down here they're liable to get a table stuck between their teeth or something like that. Instead of, you know, the WWF rules, it's going to be a little bit harder for them down here. Or you know, with me being with Yokozuna, if Tracy Smothers was, you know, to win the Smoky Mountain title back, and now he's got a shot at the big guy, right, for the world title. And I'm going to do everything in my power to prevent that, and I could be in Yokozuna's corner. You know, stuff like that would work in. Same thing when we brought Arn Anderson earlier this year. Everybody knew that he had been best friends with Bobby Eaton and partners, you know, for however long. He'd never teamed up with the Rock and Roll Express, but they'd sold out, you know, Rock and Roll and Arn and Tully all over the place. A whole lot of stuff. It fit the issue. So you don't just bring a guy down for the sake of, oh, and by the way, Bret Hart will be here. In addition to all the others, he'll be wrestling Joe Kazana, you know, because nobody gives a shit. But if you make it work within the issue, and I don't know what the situation was with him in Memphis.
Well, one week they'd have Duggan, another week Gus Slaughter, and...
Well, see, I don't know whether that's a deal they made, send somebody every week, or whether they just start asking for people because they thought WWF guys.
I think Jarrett at the beginning just thought that if they would bring in WWF guys would help the house, and then he realized that if they didn't draw, he figured if they would stale in New York, we could bring them in and they would draw, and then he realized that if they're stale in New York, they're also stale in Memphis. So then, now he's concentrating on bringing in guys in a position where to help the house, rather than just bringing in guys just to have a WWF guy on the card.
Yeah, because that just, I mean, you know.
Because that didn't work. Yeah.
Now, hey, if we could get Tiger Jackson. But so that's the thing, and nothing's signed. There ain't no contracts or nothing. You know, if we do what we say we'll do, then they'll keep working with us, I guess. And if they do what they say they'll do, then we'll keep working with them. And if somebody screws around, well, then, you know, we'll do something else. And if they decide they don't want to do it anymore, well, hey, it was great while it lasted, but we're still doing our thing.
You less worried about talent raids from them now?
I was never worried about it to begin with, because all these guys that we have, they have had 7 million chances. I mean, it's not like we've just found anybody under a rock. You know, they've had 7 million chances to get them, and they never have. And the only guy that's gone up there from our territory is Brian Clark, and that's why right off the bat, Paul Orndorff plugged him to me. I said, geez, the Night Stalker. He said, no. Listen, he's better now. So, you know, I took a look at his tape, and he came up, and he was doing a thing with Kevin, but I said, well, you know, he's going somewhere sooner or later, probably sooner than later, so, you know, let's stick him with Kevin, you know, as a second banana, and he can wrestle some of these other guys like Horner and them, where he can learn some things and get better, and, you know, when he goes, and it doesn't hurt us, because, you know, he wasn't, everything wasn't built around him. So, that's what happened. And everybody's going, well, now they've lost the Night Stalker to the WWF. Well, geez, did our ticket sales drop drastically the next week after? I mean, I'm not knocking Brian, but we didn't put him in that position because we knew he wasn't going to be here. But if you got a guy who fits our style and who, you know, like a Dirty White Boy and Tom Pritchard and, you know, guys like that you can really build around, that can do anything and that, you know, want to be here, want to be close to home, want to live here, etc., etc. You know, those are the guys you put in a position of, you know, Brian just wasn't ready to be on top and draw money here or anywhere else, but he was able to at least keep warm and learn some things while he was here, and maybe it'll help him later. So, you know, that's the thing. As far as talent raised to WCW, I mean, Jesus Christ, they got to offer you a lot of money to go down there just because of the risk you take in, you know, becoming involved in whatever that horse shit is that they're doing. So, I mean, if somebody's going to go, as long as they'll tell you they're going before they go, you know, then if they can do something better someplace else, you can't stop them, and you wouldn't want to stop them, because then they'll be pissed off at you for life. And I think everybody here, if they were going to go somewhere, would let us know as soon as they knew, and not just not show up one day, because, you know, that's the only thing that really screws you, is when all of a sudden, you know, imagine what would happen if Bob Armstrong hadn't been there last night. You know, so that's why you don't put a guy in a position like that unless you know that he's okay. And I mean, you know, if Bob told me he's going to be there, he's going to be there if he's got to, you know, jog or, you know, ride a hay wagon or whatever. So that's the thing. It wouldn't be an irreparable blow to us if any one person left, as long as we knew 3 or 4 weeks ahead of time and we just changed stuff. So you know.
Reminding you of that point, except I forgot.
Oh yeah, you know, that's another thing. They didn't tell me anything when we went up and did that TV. They didn't tell me anything that I could say or that I could not say. I mean, I can't say penis. I mean, I don't, you know. I mean, common sense. But, you know, they just said here's what the you know, here's what the issue is, and you know, da 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 da. They tell you things you can say, points to hit. But, you know, and if anybody told me that I was supposed to go out there and say something that was really incredibly stupid that a lot of people would know, you know, like, by the way, I live in California, and you know, and I carry a golf club, or, you know, something like that, you know, I mean, from time to time that has been done. You know, I mean, when people change their name, and Atlanta's so bad with that, where they change guys' names and everybody in the world knows who they are, you know, I can't do that because that's stupid, but we were ourselves. We went up and had our match. I did my interview, and I talked about what was going on. And I don't see, you know, the people know that I've messed with Dusty and Watts and, you know, and all the rest of those guys, so why not say it? Especially if, you know, it's going in Knoxville, where they're going to hear it anyway the following hour. So, you know, that gives credibility to it. It's like you can't ignore stuff. You know, and I know they. Well, but I haven't. See, and you know, no. You know, I may gloss over something. What now?
Nothing now. I can't now.
Yeah. You know, I may gloss over something if it's not cool to mention it. You know, just because it doesn't fit in the thing right. But I'm not going to blatantly. You know, and plus you could not mention stuff, and it's not like you lied and said it didn't happen. Right. But, you know, I wouldn't, and they haven't asked me to, you know, to say something really stupid that a lot of people are going to know is not right. Like, you know, like Jim Ross, hey, good to meet you. I've always wanted to meet you. You know, you know, I mean, you can't do that. That'd be stupid. That's what they used. I told them when we did the Saturday night show, they had the ding dongs out there. I said, I'm not going to say anything good about them. I said, you know that. Well, I said, no. So. Go back and watch the tapes. Me and Ross spent one whole Ding Dongs match. I was making plays off of which one was Ding and which one was Dong. Dong was my favorite, you know.
Little Ding and Big Dong.
You remember that, right?
Oh, unfortunately. It still haunts me.
You know, and that way I could speak about the match without actually having to say anything. People say, did he just say that they could wrestle or something?
Doing your thing makes sense, because what do you feel about what Jerry Lawler's doing? Being a face in Memphis, being a heel in WWF, with the same people. I mean, Government's going, same day on Memphis TV's feud with him.
Well, at the same time, he knocks Dave for exposing the business.
Can you see any sense in what Lawler's doing?
No. I mean, Lawler, professionally, he's a hero of mine. You know, I grew up watching him, right? I think he's one of the greatest workers and talkers, you know, but I wouldn't do it, you know. Because people are sitting there in Memphis going, what the heck? And it just, you know, I wouldn't do anything to hurt my business at a time, you know, when it's, you know, everybody's business is already bad enough to begin with. You know, I don't know, but who knows what he's thinking, or who knows what reasons he's got for doing whatever. But, you know, I don't believe, I wouldn't go up there and start kissing babies. You know, that wouldn't look too hot.
Working up there in Atlanta, do you think Turner has any idea what the hell's good? Does anybody
Ted Turner don't know he owns the company yet, does he? No, he had a picture taken with the big guy once, so he knows that there's wrestlers around.
He knows something, yeah. Remember he was on that thing with Jim Herd, on that, was it CBS thing? Remember that thing, and they Jim Herd's going up to Ted Turner, and it's like, oh, hi, Jim, like that.
Oh, yeah, where they had the pictures of them sketching out the costume for
Elegante.
Oh, the Connie Chung thing, right.
The minute I saw him step over the ropes, I knew he was to be a star, which, of course,
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. He did an interview on the 25th anniversary.
Yeah, it was written for him. Right. You could tell because Bill letters with them.
Right. Yeah. And Bill Watts read a letter from his when Ron Simmons went to tell him.
Right. Yeah.
And Ted Turner don't know anything that's going on in that company. I mean, in the wrestling company. You know, you get to figure however many $1 billion he's worth. If the wrestling company loses $15 million a year, that's like 3 or 4 good shopping sprees for Jane Fonda at, Tiffany's or something. Right. So, and nobody's going to tell him because it's the same thing. Nobody wants to get fired. If somebody just went up to him and said, Ted, by the way, we bought that wrestling company 4 years ago and really fucked it up bad and it's lost about $25 million. We'd like to know what to do about it. Well, you're fired and on your way out, take everybody else with you. So what, that's what, everybody used to expect her to do something, or whoever was in that position to do something, and then Shaw and Petrick and everybody else to do something, but the thing is, everybody looks at it like, well, Herd fucked everything up, so he should be fired. Well, who hired that dumb fuck? Petrick, fire him too, and it would go, everybody would get heat on up and up, right? So nobody would say anything. They'd say, it's them damn wrestlers. They just don't know what they're doing. Jeez, we got to get rid of them son of a bitches. And once we don't have any wrestlers here, we'll have a good wrestling promotion. That's what they think. And, and I guess that they just really, a lot of them are embarrassed to have the company to begin with, and a lot more of them just don't care, and they don't like the business enough to study anything about it or try to learn about it, and the ones that do pick up a few things about it think that everybody involved in it's all nuts, which of course is true, but I mean, I would think that anybody who's involved in that business is nuts, for the way that they run that thing, and so it just is, it's like oil and water. At least, Vince, and I told Wade Keller this too when everybody was making a big deal out of what we did, Vince is not the #1 enemy of the wrestling business anymore. I mean, a couple years ago, yeah, hey, because all that shit that they were doing and everything. But, now anybody that watches the WWF program, I mean, it's slick, and there's a lot of good stuff on it, and there's some stuff, and there's some shit. But Atlanta from top to bottom, and anybody who can take a company with Ric Flair and Arn Anderson and Bobby Eaton and Barry Windham and Van Vader and all those guys and make the daggum shows not even worth watching, that's a talent right there. and so, they're the biggest enemy of the wrestling business anymore, just because people watch that and they say, what is everybody talking about wrestling for? It's a shits. So, everybody band together and helped drive out the worst menace, right? The Ayatollah was right up there until Saddam came along, and so what the heck? I mean, it's not like this is the greatest thing that ever happened to the WWF, and it's not like it's the greatest thing that ever happened to Smoky Mountain Wrestling, but, it's certainly not, I would think we would be doing damage to our business, and we would also be really, really kicking the business in the ass if we did anything with WCW right now, just because of all the shit that they've done.
Well, how did you really feel about that skit with the bomb on the beach there? How did you really feel?
Too bad only Dusty were on a boat.
Did anybody here see our Armstrong's Army training film that we did with them running through the woods and everything? Leonard saw it. Well, they spent 80 grand on the mini-movie and blew up a boat, and everybody thought it was horrible, and it turned people off and probably lost them some pay-per-view buys. And we did Armstrong's Army training film, and it cost us $50, and I edited it myself, and, threw a house last night. So, it's ridiculous. It's horrible. And I'm sorry, if I was any of the guys involved with it, I would have said, whoa, I ain't going to do this. I'm not going to look like a fucking idiot on national television. What are they going to fire Sting because he don't want to be in the mini-movie? I mean, really? But now they think they're actors now. They think they're TV stars.
Oh,
and not one of them, if they would all just say, whoa, let's put the brakes on, but not one of them because they're scared, you know, well, da-da-da, and they're making a lot of money, but geez, you know, still, in that company's shape, they're not going to fire Sting and Vader and Davey Boy and, you know, I don't know about Harley and, you know, whatever else, just because they don't want to look like buffoons on television. So I think they could have done that. I mean, I've seen guys in Memphis or in Mid-South or in, you know, get a whole lot hotter than just saying, hey, we ain't going to do it, and not get fired because they meant something to the company, and the scale of money isn't nearly what it is down there. So,
what do you think they were thinking of as they were making it? What could possibly
ways to buy more drugs? I have no idea. You know, I don't know who's responsible. I wasn't there. You know, I don't know whose idea it was, who executed it. It should have been executed. You know.
See the Cactus Jack and Windows skits? The same few weeks? Even worse.
Same thing, you know. And you know, here they're preying on a guy who's just had a baby and who knows that his physical future is limited, and he's trying to do, you know, what they asked him to do, and they make him look like goddamn peg-leg Pete on a sailing expedition or something. You know, and now they've just dropped it completely, right?
Yeah.
Totally dropped it.
Is your audience?
Which is also, that's, in another way, that's even stupid too.
Yeah.
Like, to totally drop it, because that's just like...
Well, maybe the amnesia was contagious and they forgot to do it.
Yeah, well, they forgot that as well.
Do you think your audience is separate enough that if negative stuff does happen with WCW or WWF, that doesn't down trickle to you?
Well, you know, anytime that people are pissed off to wrestling business in general, you know, it hurts everybody's business. But like everybody said, well, should Cornette and them get hooked up with the WWF, you know, if a scandal, you know, I don't take steroids. You know, I don't care.
Come on, Jimmy.
Well, you know, I'm sorry. You know,
come on, Jimmy. We know.
I don't take steroids. I don't fondle anybody's feet. And, you know, and we ain't involved in nothing. And it's just like if that happens, and we come on down here and do what we're going to do, and just say, yeah, we went up to the WWF and we, you know, chased them champions, and you know what they, it's not our thing. You know, the only test probably most of our guys wouldn't pass would be a cholesterol test, and I'd be right at the top of the list. And you know, the fans are separate down here a lot, but there's, see, one thing is I've had a lot of comments since people have seen the shows on, hey, I saw you on TV last Monday. Well, I'm on TV here every week. So it's not like that's something they should remark about that's out of the ordinary, but you know, maybe it's people that are watching that show because they work on Sundays, or you know, they haven't caught our show yet or whatever, and maybe it'll make them start trying to watch it or come to some of our shows. It's a separate audience, but and plus the wrestling fans down here in Tennessee, they like wrestling. You know, WWF has never drawn a house here. They brought Hulk Hogan in here first and only time and did 35 grand, and that was about 4 or 5 years ago. You know, when WCW was doing the same thing, you know, for a regular show. I mean, they've never drawn here, and WCW got down to, you know, well, June 27th, Flair's return with, you know, with comps and everything. They had 400 people in the Coliseum.
Oh, God.
You know, we were in 2 weeks later with 1,000.
Do you know how their pay-per-views do here?
No, I don't. I sure don't. But I would have to think it'd run along the same lines as everything else. You know, they want to see wrestling, right? Well, when I say wrestling, they want to see somebody get their head bust open with a chair. You know, these people were raised over here on this side of the state with Ron Wright and, you know, Whitey Caldwell and the Mongolian Stomper and the Fullers, and, you know, and then, as a matter of fact, when we did the New York TV, I was talking to Lawler. I said, Jesus, Jerry, I said, the state of Tennessee is taking over the wrestling business. You know, what is there? There's four promotions in the country, and 2 of them are here. You know, on the other side over there, you know, Jackie Fargo was king, and everybody. If you ask people in Memphis today, you know, name 3 wrestlers, they're going to say Jackie Fargo, probably either Jerry Jarrett or Toji Yamamoto, and of course Jerry Lawler. And because when you get over in the state of Tennessee, you're over. They can still bring Fargo back, and it'll boost their house. He doesn't do what he once did, but it'll boost it. You know, Stomper, I mean, my God, you know, he was last regularly on top here, what, in 1979, 80, 81, you know, and then he's come back since. But You know, when you get over down here with these people, Bob Armstrong, same thing. You know, it takes a lot to get over. I mean, in the history of Memphis, I mean, well, you can go back to Sputnik Monroe, but you know, Fargo was it in the 60s and the early 70s, and Jerry Lawler's been it for 20 years, and, you know, the Fabulous Ones probably got over better than most any tag teams, and I mean, you know, and then Jimmy Valiant for a period of time there, but, you know, it's hard to get over here, but once you do, you know, then you can draw money off of them for 20 years.
How can you explain that versus the rest of the country where it doesn't work?
Well, California still could. I mean, when I was, you know, like when I was doing the Ted Robinson thing, I had more people calling up about Ray Stevens and about Pepper Gomez, and that angle, which was in '61, people were going, "Oh, remember when Ray Stevens was 2 years old?" I don't remember that. But you know, more people would talk about that angle than almost anything else. I'll bet you where you live, people still talk about Moondog Mayne that the guys today. Yeah, for sure, right? Yeah.
It's what you see when you're a kid. It burns in your mind.
Yeah, and also more people were seeing it, more people were going then.
Yeah, and going.
And so that's, you know, that's what they remember. And also it had to do with the talent, because more guys were learning the right way to do things, you know, back then than they are now, and there's so few places for them to learn, and everybody's concentrating now on the triple backflip off the top turnbuckle instead of how to successfully tell the referee that somebody pulled his hair, which gets more response down here. When the people believe, up north, you know, like in Philadelphia, you know, if you go, "Hey," read it, they're waiting for a spot. You know, they're waiting for the next hot move because they know that it's a work. But for the people who believe the business and want to get mad at the heels and cheer the baby faces, then that's what you have to do to draw money. You know, it's working is what it is. Working is not, you know, doing 14 million high spots or, you know, 17 million fancy moves. It's all up here. And that's why Jackie Fargo and Jerry Lawler in Tennessee and in Memphis, you know, nobody to compare. And Bob Armstrong, look at the response that he gets now with just doing this, you know, because people relate to him. And there's very few people that have that talent anymore in the business, and there's no place for them to pick it up now, except hopefully by some of our guys maybe watching Bob Armstrong on a card or, you know, or whatever. And, you know, once again, who was it that said, I hate to keep harping on the state of Tennessee, but who was it that said Lawler and somebody stole a show in Madison Square Garden?
It was Pittsburgh or something.
Or Pittsburgh or wherever the heck it was. Who was he working with? Was he working with Brett or was he working with
Savage?
Savage. Well, at Savage, there you go. Here's you know, another guy who knows what he's doing. You know, people haven't seen stuff like that in so long, and it doesn't have to you know, be Jushin Liger's match. And I mean, I think he's great. He's an incredible athlete and all that stuff. But different stuff plays in Japan and plays over here, and especially in different parts of the country.
You know, a lot of it though. There's so few people in the country now who know how to do an interview. I think that's really a lot of it because they can't get over because they're not given the time, or two, the kind of interview they're doing is some, you know, interview where they're in some funny costume and they're trying to tell puns off of their costume, rather than say, this is why I hate the guy, and this is, I think that's what gets you over is the interview.
I think that too in psychology. I think a lot of guys, it's almost like even sometimes in Japan with these light heavyweights, it's like spot.
Yeah.
You know, they're doing all these wild things, and then they just jump right up and get back in the ring. I'm like, my God, you should be laying on the floor like you're dead, you know?
And the whole thing is, it goes by people too fast for them to absorb stuff a lot of times anyway. I mean, you know, if somebody gets kicked in the ass down here, it gets a bigger pop than if somebody dives over the top rope out on the floor on the guy, because that's what they want to see. Ah, that guy got kicked in the ass, boy, you know. And it sure does make your career last longer. You know, and that's and like Dave said, with the interviews, the babyface has got to be able to talk to the people, and the heel's got to be able to piss them off. And the heels now don't know the right things to say you know, they're trying to talk tough. They should be trying to talk tough, except if they aren't tough, and then that would be a lie. The heels don't lie, and they don't knock the people. They don't call them, you know, redneck genetic defect mutants. You know, it's everything's generic. It's watered down. You know, the baby faces are just, you know, they're howling and they're talking about, you know, the cliches. Talk about the kids, you know, talk about USA, talking about whatever. They don't explain to the people why that this guy's a no-good, dirty, rotten bastard, and why that he's going to do something about it. The babyface ought to, on an interview, I think, ought to do three things. He ought to explain, you know, just exactly why he's mad at the heel. He ought to talk about the match he's got coming up and tell the people about how that match is going to enable him to get back, and he ought to say the things about that heel that the people wish they could say if they were on TV. You know, and then the heel, you know, you got a lot of more different personalities of heels, you know, but the gist of the thing is they shouldn't just say funny things. They should say things to piss people off. And I mean, I'm fine when to say that, but, you know, because I make, you know, make a lot of, but see, the thing is, if you can get some heat, then even if you say something that's a funny joke about the babyface, I mean, do you, if you love your wife, you don't want a total stranger telling funny jokes about how fat her ass is. You know, even if the joke's funny, it don't get over with you, right? So that's, you know, that's the whole principle there, but it doesn't, and they're making things so corny these days that it doesn't work anyway. But that's what, you know, your classic heel interviews and your classic babyface interviews, the guys that can talk through the money, you know, I mean, Dusty Rhodes was never exactly Mr. Universe, but he drew a lot of money because he could talk.
Do you coach the people in your group now about how to do a good interview, help them out?
Yeah, you know, well, you always try to, you know, if you see that they're doing something that they shouldn't be doing, or they maybe that they could do something different or whatever, yeah, you know. The problem is, you know, you got to tell them more a rule of thumb rather than say, okay, you say this, because a lot of people, if you tell them you say this, then they'll try to say it word for word. It'll come out like, I'm reading this off of a teleprompter. You know, so you got to tell them more like, just be relaxed or be whatever, you know, the mood to be in, and put yourself in that position. What would you say? You know, by the way, this guy just pissed on your leg. You know, what are you going to do about it? Well, that son of a bitch, I'm going to kick him in the head. You know, well, okay, say that. You know, be more natural. You know, the guys that are real natural and real relaxed in front of, look at Bobby Heenan. You know, he's just...
Your old friend?
Yeah, my bosom buddy.
Great reunion.
You know, Bobby Heenan is tremendous on the microphone regardless of what he's doing. You know, Savage has his own personality, and he doesn't have to go in as much detail because his personality is that he probably wouldn't recognize details if they slapped him in the face anyway, you know. You know, I'm trying to think of all the other New York guys, and boy, it sounds terrible. I was just up there for 3 days. I can't remember who else is up there. Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
You and Lawler really stand out as far as interviews.
What now?
You and Lawler stand out like sore thumbs as far as...
Well, you know, and Lawler's a classic. I mean, I've made more money off of Jerry Lawler stuff than he has, you know. And he told me that one time, as a matter of fact. He's the best interview that there's ever been in the business, I think.
What do you think, Brian Christopher?
I think he's doing great. I think, and he projects too. When he goes out, he projects. And I was surprised from the time that we went there and worked with him a couple years ago. You know, when the Fabs were back together for that time, and now it's just, you know, he's just come a long way. But he really projects all the way around. And you know, see, that's the thing. Lawler can tell you, you know, that Casey O'Connor's going to beat Hulk Hogan on the next pay-per-view and make you believe it, and that's the important thing. He's so credible, and Bill Watts could say anything. He could excuse anything. He could explain anything. The guy drop kick, right, 5 feet away. Guy took a bump anyway. Well, the reason for that, and you'd say, oh, why did I think of that? You know, and that's how these guys drew money, because they were believable and convincing, and people could identify with them or whatever, and you know, that's very short these days.
What do you see what do you see as good qualities in a good announcer? A TV announcer?
Not want to be the star of the show. You know, there's several different types of announcers that are all, like Jim Ross is the best play-by-play guy in the business. But I think sometimes, and I mean for our audience, for one thing, he would tend to go by so quick, people would be trying to take notes and figure out what he said later on over dinner, you know. Bob Caudle, meanwhile, is like, well, he kicked him right in the head, whereas Jim Ross would say, Eddie, what a vicious boot right to the side of the head, which has undoubtedly caused brain damage and da-da-da. Bob Caudle said, boy, he kicked him in the head there. Yeah, kicked him right in the head, didn't he? Son of a... You know, so there's different types of... But, I mean, Bob looks like a guy who would never lie. right? But, you know, he's just good old plain old Bob, you know, and I mean, he's not going to get excited because he does, that's him, you know, it's what geez, oh Pete, fella, is when Bob's raving ready to kill, you know. So, you know, there's different types of announcers, but, and look at Lance, you know, Lance was laid back but for Memphis, nobody could touch him. He was established there, and he spoke to the people. He didn't talk down to them.
You get an angle over.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and plus people trust. It's like the difference between Walter Cronkite and some, you know, shyster news guy. Well, yeah. Yes. You know, you put Walter Cronkite and Eric Bischoff side by side. Eric Bischoff's hair is better. He looks better. His voice is better. He talks better. He's probably you know, more well-spoken, and nobody would believe a word he said, whereas Walter Cronkite, there's good old Walter, you know, he says something, they're going to believe it.
That's the way
That's the whole thing. The announcer, at least for my type of wrestling show that I would like to watch, the announcer doesn't have to be perfect, and he doesn't have to be a newscaster. He has to be somebody that knows what he's talking about. It's not going to say anything stupid and try to get the issues over, not get in the way of the guys and try to have the last word, and be somebody that people can believe.
I think he casted Dutch Mantel better than anybody, too. For color commentary?
Oh, well, I didn't. All I said was, Dutch, would you do the color? Sure.
He's incredible.
He's my favorite color. I don't tell him what thing to do different, or I just here's what we're talking about, you know, and off he goes. He's always been that good. You know, he's always been that good, and it's just that
but
you know.
There's a big difference from when he did it in WCW, which is.
Well, he was doing one-liners.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of what they wanted.
Yeah.
You know, but also, I mean, you know, he's done 80-something shows now for us, and however many shows he did for them. So obviously, you get know more experience at it. But you know, Dutch is just a funny son of a gun.
Hilarious.
Yeah. So and at the same time, every once in a while, he and Bob will start going back and forth a little too much. You have to talk about the match, you know. But apart from that, you know, I think he's great. And I mean, and color commentators, boy, see, everybody now thinks they got to be Jesse Ventura.
Right.
Including Jesse Ventura.
Including Jesse Ventura, who wishes that he was now Jesse Ventura, because he ain't Jesse Ventura no more. He's, you know, he's somebody doing Jesse. You know, I don't see what the, you know, and I mean, he'll belabor something. What, is he just mad at the entire state of Texas, or does he hate Mexicans, or what's the deal with his Texican thing? Entering now its 6th month of, you know, he belabors stuff to death. You know, stuff that's not even that, you know, great on the first go-round.
What do you think of Dino?
I think Bobby's great, and I wish that now that I'd been watching their TV longer than what I have, because now I'm just watching it because we're on it.
Before Titan called you, did you realize their product was pretty similar?
Truthfully, over the past couple weeks, I've watched a lot more of them, obviously, and it's not as bad as it used to be, but I mean, there's a lot of things that I would change, but nobody's asked me to, so I'm not going to. But that's just my opinion to, you know, to make it more, I guess, like Smoky Mountain Wrestling. But if it was more like Smoky Mountain Wrestling, and we'd be in trouble because they'd be drawing money down here and wouldn't need to work with us.
What do you think of Raw in general, Monday Night Raws?
That is a good show. But see, they're putting better matches on it, and they're doing a lot more good stuff, and
they're doing week scenarios.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, stuff that's missing from all their other shows. It seems like a lot of the other stuff is just scatterbrains.
Well, they're building the whole show for the They're building the whole show for the ratings.
Yeah.
The best rating they got was the 1-2-3 Kid Ramon match, which they built up so well.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing is built to the ratings. The only downside is they do nothing for their houses on that show.
Right.
And their houses still have to come up, even though more people. I think more people, you know, watch Raw than have watched, you know, watch primetime by far.
Well, the house show still sucks, though.
We'll see. This pay-per-view is going to be real interesting.
They've done a great job building up.
Yeah. This one should go up. If it doesn't go up, then I don't know. Throw everything up in the air.
If it doesn't go up, I'll be hot.
Yeah.
We all think Tammy's wonderful.
Yeah.
And not just her physical attributes. She works, and she looks. Her facials are incredible.
So much
really.
Yeah.
Really.
She sells the spanking better than anyone.
You liked that spanking, didn't you? Yeah, you know, I think she's going to be great, and she's quick. You know, if you tell her something, you know, she picks right up on it, and she's interested, and she's not just somebody's dumb girlfriend that wanted to get in the business to carry their jacket around or whatever, you know. And I think she's going to be really good with whoever she's with, you know, and whatever she does. But and she's just perfect for down here, because even the girls that are, you know, the rats that are smart, you know, they still hate her because, you know, she looks better than they do, and she's where they want to be, and, you know, God, it's still like a choker. I don't care if it doesn't work. Brian, you know, I mean, I had this guy, or this girl in Paintsville, Kentucky, where, you know, like in the past year, I've had like, what, 25 death threats, you know, phoned into the radio station and the fire department, and this girl walks up to me and says, "What do you think of Tammy Fitch?" I said, "Well, she's okay. I'd like to choke her. Wouldn't you?" I said, "She's commiserating with me. This fan is commiserating with me on what a bitch Tammy is."
That's over.
So, you know, so I know she's got some heat, you know.
Yeah, but you know, the thing about her, what I think sets her apart from a lot of the women characters, is that everyone here knows someone just like her. And nobody really knows anyone like all the other characters, or most of the other characters, the women characters in wrestling. Because they're all these, like, fake characters, let's say. And her character,
I don't know,
like,
Missy's pretty much of a shoot.
Yeah, Missy's a shoot. Missy's a shoot, but Missy's been, it's like Missy's like the caricature of Missy.
Yeah, no, I'm just
You know what I mean?
Boy, isn't that's a classic statement right there, a caricature of Missy Hyatt. But yeah, you know, Tammy, and she's real believable. Once again, she's believable.
Very believable.
So that's, you know, I think that's why people are getting into her, and I mean, she's believable backstage as well. You know, no, she'll be there tonight. So I don't want to say no.
Have you worked with her?
As far as
with the facials and stuff, picking that stuff, she's done that on her own.
That's her. You know, the thing is, I mean, she's 19 years old, and she's, you know, from New Jersey, and she's never lived away from home, right? You know, so she's a shoot. She's a college girl, you know, like, you know, from New Jersey. And, you know, and that's good. I mean, New Jersey is automatic heat down here anyway. You know? Oh, sorry about it. But,
We're in trouble.
You think Ballet Food's been done to death? Would you want to bring somebody in eventually to work with her then?
Well, Ballet Feuds have been done to death in the past. But see, one is she's not a valet, she's a manager right now. And as time goes on, you know, and we've established some other things, you know, we'll start establishing now that she's, you know, she's behind the scenes doing stuff as well. But also the thing is, a lot of times when they just drag girls out of the backyard, I mean, have wrestling feuds been done to death? Well, bad ones have, and good ones haven't. So if you get people that can do something, then you can put them in whatever situation, and it might draw some money. But if somebody's the shits that's in that equation, then it's going to be screwed up and it's going to hamper it. So, you know, she's not a wrestler, and she's not ever going to be. I don't think she ever wants to be, and I certainly wouldn't put her in the ring. But if there was another girl in the corner, you know, that the people would like or whatever, you know, that's something that could be done. But, you know,
Nancy or Kim?
well, see, the thing is, you know, well, number one, too many people know that Nancy would be, you know, involved with Kevin, and then without switching everything around, you know, and besides that, you know, Nancy's always been a heel on TV, so she, you know, she might have some heat. You know, well, the same thing with Kim. You know, I mean, there aren't that many babyface girls. Sunshine was, huh?
Kim was a babyface in Memphis lots of times.
Well, but I mean over here, you know. But yeah, I mean, who knows though? But like, you know, Sunshine in Dallas, people actually just loved her for, you know, whatever
baby
reason.
Doll.
Baby
Precious.
doll. Baby doll. I'll tell you what, you know, if anybody should have pioneered the man versus woman matches, and I mean actually put her in with a daggum wrestler instead of just me to get my jaw dislocated. Baby doll, she was a moose. Jesus Christ.
More stiff there, huh, Jim?
Oh, one night she was just going to swing as a slap and come like this, and I just jump back and whoa, and jaw him completely out, back in, couldn't chew for 3 days, you know. Oh, Jesus Christ. But I just never saw Baby Doll as the sex symbol that everybody, you know, there's Tully out there talking about, and my beautiful Baby Doll over here, she's 6 inches taller than he is, 20 pounds heavier, able to kick his ass at any time. You know, and see, that's another thing about, look at Tammy and Brian, what a couple, right? Because she's a little blonde, you know, like that, and he's a big, you know.
It's believable.
Yeah. Like, yeah, I hear you big dumb jock. You've always got the prettiest girlfriend, and they're always taking all your money, and you know. So that, you know, it's true to life. So that's why I like it.
I heard a little bit about your infamous videotape collection of wrestling. Okay. Tell us about your video.
I was waiting for the question mark.
I'll give you a question. You want to hire somebody like me to maybe go through the tapes?
Well, geez, I'll tell you, ever since I moved up here last year, I mean, I've got one whole room that's just stacked in boxes. I haven't even had time to unpack everything.
You don't need them anymore. You don't need them.
Well, I'm,
Door prizes. I'm not giving us door prizes.
I was going to just hang on to them for a little while longer, but no, I've got, I don't know what all I've got, but I've got everything in the world, at one time or another, and finding anything in specific would be the hard part, but at least I'll never lack for entertainment if I, like get a cold and have to stay in the house for about 5 or 6 years. I'll get a chance to, get entertained again. But hey, there's a lot of good stuff there you can steal too, because like after 7 years, the statute of limitations runs out, and you can do an angle again without it being theft.
And what dates do you have marked off for that?
I'm thinking 95 through 2002 probably. I'll do it. But yeah, I've got a lot of stuff. But I've heard that. That Steve. Anybody know that Steve Friedlander in New York?
Yeah.
Jeez, I got his list, and I thought it was the daggum San Diego phone book. I mean, I can't even read half the daggum shit. It's a small print, so we can, send it without hunchbacking the mailman. But a few other people probably have more stuff than I do. But I think I got some neat stuff that not that many people have.
I got a lot of like 70s Memphis things.
Yeah, I think I've got more Memphis stuff than they do. Because I've got like every one of the TV shows from 1979, and I borrowed and scavenged before I even got into business. When I was just taking pictures, I scavenged everything that Jerry Lawler had. I'd go and I'd like borrow 4 tapes from him at a time, and he had them on 3/4, and I'd go over and get somebody to dub them, and then here's something that Ron Martinez in Florida with the PM Film and Tape. He's got a ton of old stuff, and he ended up with like a bunch of old Nick Goulas 16mm films from the arenas, and he's got a bunch of Nick's old TV tapes on 1 and 2 or on 2-inch tape. And I got most of the stuff on 16mm film transferred over. I paid it because he had it on film, and I paid him. Right, I said, transfer it, I'll take it. And my wife almost killed me. And I got a bunch of it, and I wanted to order the rest of it, but he's so screwed up on orders and stuff, and I guess, his warehouse is buried or whatever. I'd write him and I'd call him, and it was a year and I never got an answer. And then he wrote me a letter back saying, I've just been real busy, and I run the business by myself, and I'll try to get to you when I can. And I never heard another thing from him. And all those of Nick's old TV shows, there's no formats in them. You don't know what's on them, and it's 2-inch tape, which you got to go to a pretty high level production house to find anymore, because 2-inch is obsolete, and so only the major places have it. So it's like $95 an hour to dub. So I didn't get into that, but he's got a ton of old stuff from all over the place. And it's just sitting down there. All the old wrestling tapes in the world are in Florida. The Championship Wrestling from Florida collection, and
see, that collection's the one that I always would really want to see, because no one has any of that stuff from the 70s.
Yeah.
And except for Mike Graham, and I don't know, they're not dubbing it, not selling it. I think that's
Steve Kern also.
Well, whoever, but that stuff's worth a fortune.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It sits there at the Sportatorium. Jimmy Del Rey used to go in there and sit and just watch the stuff. He says it's great. It's just a huge room with the tape and tape and tape and tape and tape. And, who knows what they'll do with it.
Hearing that.
I mean, they go back to film in the 50s. They've got black and white films and stuff. They have everything, and it just sits there, and I don't know what they're going to do with it. I mean, they could do what we're doing, with just our TV shows and stuff, only on, I guess, on a grander scale, and make more money than it's making now.
That's what I'm
selling
saying,
it to people.
Like in the mid '80s, when the thing got really popular.
Nobody wants to mess with it, I guess. Is the only
Yeah, but I'm thinking in the mid '80s, there was a real market for that stuff. When like Briscoes were still like at the end of their career, but you could see them in their prime and all that, and Dusty was still active. I mean, now like a lot of the fans, it's already a little bit past. But I was thinking back then, I mean, that stuff was worth a fortune when everybody else was coming out with their videos, like Vernon and all them. And these guys had more good wrestlers than almost anyone, and they never did anything, and now it's, just sit there.
And even Titan, they're sitting on a gold mine there. They could beat out all the bootleggers out there, because they have the originals of all these great Shea Stadium and everything.
I just think that they either don't care or don't want to mess with it, and see, for like them, I mean, they're making so much money now with Coliseum Video and all that stuff. It would be, for that small a specialized market, it wouldn't be worth it to them. But for, you know, the Florida guys, when they got a room full of shit that's just sitting there getting dusty and, so to speak, and, you know, I mean, you could hire some, you know, dumb shit kid working at McDonald's for, you know, $20 a day to sit in there and dub stuff, and, you know, and send it out, because that's...
Christ, they got a room full of people to go do it for nothing.
Yeah, exactly, you know. So I don't know why they don't do anything with it.
And they'd make the underground market pretty much obsolete, too, sort of like the argument about legalizing drugs. Do you know what I mean?
I knew he was going to bring it up sooner or later. No, nobody with hair like that would.
Okay.
But,
how much do you get the Japanese tapes?
I haven't had a chance in the past couple of years to really watch hardly any Japanese stuff. I mean, I've got like tons of stuff at home, and you know, the first Japanese match I ever saw was Funk and Saruta from like 1978 or 79, and I'd never even seen anything like that before. I said, geez, this is great. But you know what, up through about 84, 85, and all the Tiger Mask stuff, the Dynamite Kid stuff and everything, I mean, I just couldn't wait to get a Japanese tape. But then after a while, it just seemed like to me that while the stuff was great, when they started doing the Japanese feud, and they changed the style to where now it's just so 100% full speed ahead all the time, and it's like there aren't any more of those Terry Funk matches, you know, over there, and they're not anymore the Americanized
check it out. They've got a lot of...
You know, well, I mean, and now the problem is I don't have time. I mean, I've heard they're doing some great stuff, and of course, I mean, that's Baba and Inoki, whereas, you know, I mean, I've seen the Wing stuff and the FMW stuff, and geez, except, you know, just for the fact that I like sick shit like that. Just the idea that here's a couple guys in a ring that's, you know, wired to blow up here in a minute. I mean, they don't have a lot in the way of polished workers. But,
you won't be bringing that in down here, huh?
Well, no, I don't think so. We can't afford to get the ring rebuilt, see. But I mean, you know, I like a lot of different stuff. You know, I thought for a while there it just got how much rice can a Chinaman eat when, you know, when you get like all these Japanese tapes and the matches would all they are of a pattern. I think Dave watches a lot of Japanese stuff
Constantly.
Yeah, they are of a, I mean, you know,
it's just like American though.
Well, true.
You know, I mean, like, you know, all styles, you know, I mean, like, you know, all styles are patterned in a certain way. You know,
I think you could enjoy the All Japan heavyweights more than maybe the junior heavyweights. It's a...
Yeah.
The all Japan guys, like Kawada and Kobashi and those guys, I mean, it's full speed ahead, but they're so stiff, you just gotta love them.
Yeah.
You see the Hansen Kawada match.
Yeah, the Hansen Kawada match is incredible.
Greatest match I've ever seen.
But and I'll tell you, you know, I like a lot. I like that Mexican stuff too. Just to, you know, gee, many Christ. You know, in a 35-minute match, you might find about 2 or 3 moves that could actually be performed here without killing somebody, and, you know, hey, that's good, you know, we'll do that. But just because it's fun to watch it, I mean, you know, Mexicans are, you know, so different, the way they think, and the rules are different and everything. That
you know what's weird about that stuff? Is on TV, if you watch, it took me years to watch Lucha Libre and enjoy it. Yeah. You know, but now I do. But like the first couple of years, it was like I had the whole thing where it's like, the bumps are wrong, the moves are wrong, everything looks bad, these guys don't know how to work, but when you realize what they're doing, then you know, they know how to work, it's just different. But when you go to see them live, the psychology is exactly the same to me as American. I mean, you know, the heels go and get the heat and all this, and the crowd reacts great. I mean, I was really impressed with seeing it live. It's just, it's psychology. I mean, it's not the same thing, but the idea is the same, just they do all different moves to get to the same end, you know.
That stuff's neat. You know, I like anything in a ring that's wrestling of some type. You know, kangaroos, bears, whatever. Hot oil, yeah.
When you talk about those kind of moves not getting over down here, don't you think in the bigger cities where there's really no belief left, the style like that, maybe combined with you know, people know how to do interviews, people know how to work the crowd, but you also have that kind of...
yeah, you know, I mean, see, don't get me wrong, those are good matches and the stuff, and I mean, people go ooh and ah, but if you go back traditionally, because Americans are just different people, that is the great match to have on the card, but that's not your main event, because that's not what's going to draw the money. Draw the money is the guy that the people like has had his leg pissed on by the guy that people don't like, and they believe he's going to do something about it.
Do you think there's a way to have a combination of that, to build that grudge, to have that be what draws, and still have that type of a style in there?
Well, you know,
as well as the interviews? Just
you know, I don't know. It's hard to say because it hadn't been done. But if you had guys that could do all of those things, you know, probably yeah, sure.
It seems like WCW could pull that off if they wanted to go in that direction.
Yeah, where are you going to find the guy?
Yeah, exactly. You got to find the guy that.
Yeah.
You got to find the guy that can do the triple backflip and the Jerry Lawler interview. You know, so that's.
And wants to work for Dusty.
Yeah, wants to work for Dusty.
Yeah.
Okay, forget I
But you know, but see, the Americans are just different in this country, and see, in different places in this country, you know, things are different too. That's why you got to appeal to the, you know, the population that you've got. I mean, you know, Jiminy Christ, the classic thing that everybody wrote about, dirty white boy burned the Confederate flag, and well, if you did that in Minnesota, people go, well, I think he should have. Down here, you know, the Klan was showing up.
California, you get elected governor.
Yeah, you know, down here the Klan was showing up, telling Tracy, hey, if you need any help tonight, we'll be right there. You know. Oh, they did. And the guy came up in Pikeville. Tracy's at the gimmick table, and the guy slides up and says, if you don't get him tonight, we're going to, and handed him his card, didn't he? Yeah, well, thankfully, if Tony had gone over at night, he wouldn't have got out of there. Wasn't no way. Yeah.
Mike just beat up that stuff.
So, you know, luckily it just happened to fit in with what we were going to do anyway, or we would have had to change it.
In Japan, it's like, in Japan, the different cities are also all different too. It's like, you know, a lot of what we all see from Japan is like Tokyo, Cork, and Hall, which would be a group of people like us. And so they've seen everything, and they just want to see more and more and more. And they react to it, and they come every week, and it's the hottest building in the world. But if you go to the small towns in Japan, they actually work a style a lot more American.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, because they have to concentrate on getting heat and things like that. And it's hard because they're kind of in the big cities in Japan, they're more outgoing and stuff. And in the small cities, even though you got to work that style, they all sit on their hands because they just kind of watch. Because it's like the old Japan, like from the 70s, you know. Because like Tokyo, Osaka, and Nagoya, where they do most of the TV from, you know, that's the hardcore Japanese fans. And like you go to the small towns, small town Japanese crowds are not very different from small town American crowds. But the big city Japanese crowds are like a few big city American crowds, maybe like a Philadelphia where you have 300, but they got 11,000 of them. That's the difference.
So probably in a little city like that, SMW would get over better than All Japan.
Well, in some places it does.
Right.
Well, not really, just because All Japan's got Baba though.
Got the names, right.
You know, and Baba, when you go to a small town, you know, Baba's coming to town. It's kind of like Jackie Fargo. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter that he can't work anymore. It's like he's Baba.
Right.
He's
the legend.
Doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
The legend.
Yeah.
Well, you know, our spot shows too. I mean, well, y'all saw Morristown, and Morristown is kind of an upscale crowd for us. You know, you know, I mean, the people in Morristown I mean, Morristown's a big town for a spot show. You know, for us, and the people there are more on the ball and a little bit, you know, I mean, it's not like, you know, that they're coming in, you know, leading a pig on a rope and with 3 teeth, which all of which we've seen, you know, and, you know, got fried chicken hanging out of their pocket and stuff, and, you know, so, and they react that way. Some of the real smaller towns back in the woods, Jesus Christ, you know,
Kentucky.
yeah, especially up in eastern Kentucky, because they got nothing. If you go up Interstate 75, it's 170 miles from here to Lexington. And Lexington's from Knoxville. That's the next biggest town, and it's 180 miles over to Huntington, West Virginia, or 160 or something like that. And then Johnson City, where we were last night, and it's like 200 miles up to Huntington from there. It's all in that corner. There ain't nothing there. They got one TV station. They don't have any interstates. They got one 4-lane highway. You know, they don't have concerts. You know, I mean, yeah, traveling country music shows, but I mean, no big name acts. You know, geez.
No cable?
Well, see, some of them don't
get electricity yet?
Well, as a matter of fact, here's the deal. I mean, I'm shooting. I mean, it's not like I'm trying to paint this like it's dog patch, because I mean, for the most part. But there's people that live back in the woods that still have outhouses. There's people that live back in the hills that can't get cable because they're a mile from the nearest house. So what is the cable company going to run a cable a mile? You know, well, I mean, central West Virginia is a lot the same thing. If those people don't get satellite dishes, then they don't have any TV. So you'll see a trailer with a satellite dish where the dish costs more than the trailer did, because elsewise they're going to sit in the house and look at each other. That's where the daggum, people come in, because there's a lot of inbreeding. I mean, it's a joke, but it ain't a joke. I mean,
what else are we?
What else is there to do?
Is that where Kevin Sullivan found a lady in the third act?
Yes, she went right over here on the side of her head. And so we're the only thing that they ever get to see off of TV. So, so that's why we do probably overall better there than we do anywhere else, because they're just, so much less entertainment. And I mean, then 5 years ago, for example, geez, what's that town up from Pikeville? Jiminy Christ. Well, there was some towns up there for outlaw shows were doing 15 and 20 grand. Oh, well, no, that's in West Virginia, but I'm thinking that other town in Kentucky. Whatever. They were doing houses like that for outlaw shows. The Fantastics were on some of them, when they were doing outlaw, and sometimes even no names, just because wrestling was hot. It's the only entertainment they had, and that's what a lot of those outlaw shows then pissed the people off, to the point where they, it's harder to get them back. But but we did $12,000 in Pikeville, Kentucky on April the 2nd, the same night. WCW decides, well, we're going to run, Wise, Virginia, at the, Clinch Valley College, and it's 45 miles south of Pikeville, and they had like, 250 people. So the whole thing is they don't get a lot of entertainment, they don't have a lot of stuff to do, and plus they still believe, by gum, and they will, they will tend to want to help, Yeah. Up in the corner of Virginia, same thing, all that area up there, they haven't got anything. I mean, it takes forever to get back up there, and you think that, I've gone through 3 sets of brakes on my car in a year. But, huh?
How long can you continue at this pace?
Well,
Friday?
Yeah, till Friday.
Then you're going to the hospital for rest, right?
Yeah, well, I'm afraid they may keep me if they x-ray me. I don't know, because, I mean, last year I thought, boy, it'll sure be easier in a few months, and, thank God, I don't know. Fuck it, I ain't got anything else to do.
So you actually did that program by yourself too, right?
What now?
The program last night. You do that all too, right?
Yeah.
I got a kick out of it. Crime.
Well, actually, I didn't have enough time. I did that in one night this time. I didn't have as much time to put into it as much as I usually do. I wasn't, as happy with
the crimes you listed off.
Yeah.
Arrogance.
Yeah.
Treachery.
Treachery. All around rotten-heartedness.
Yeah, it was.
But,
you think maybe you could get people to help you out with this, or you just don't trust them to do it as well as
well,
you do it? Or?
Well, no,
What is it?
Guys! KC, wake up! KC.
Well, as a matter of fact, KC just moved over here a couple weeks ago. Well, not even a couple weeks ago. You ain't been here full time. You're not even here full time yet. KC and Brian's done a lot of stuff for us also, and he's down here with you guys this week and everything. And here, Brian's problem is he can't spell. I get mad. I'm going, God damn it, Brian, No, a lot of times, because I'm having to write, maybe things that are going to be going in that direction or whatever, by the time I tell somebody, was the room fixing to blow up?
No, the french fries are ready.
By the time I tell somebody I just do it myself. I'm just, it's not that I don't trust anybody else, I just like the shit that I do better than shit that other people do. Because it's still shit, but at least it's my shit. Your own farts don't smell as bad.
How many people do you have on the payroll?
Well, geez, I don't even know. Because, I mean, it's like everybody just, they get paid on the shows. So, I mean, some shows are bigger, some shows are smaller, and, it's not like that there's this tremendous office staff that, well, I mean, we got like Pam, Pam and Pam.
And then there's Pam, isn't there?
And there's Pam, and there's a lot of Pam to go around. So yeah, it's like spam. You can spread that stuff thin, you can spread Pam thin. Pam's in the office. If you call the Smoky Mountain Wrestling office, then she'll answer, because otherwise the phone will keep ringing. We ain't got an answering machine yet. Actually, there's nothing in the office except her desk. We just got an office just so she could have a place to go because we get the rent. We rent the office. It's like $150 a month. It's in the bank building in Morristown. So.
Oh, you actually have an office then?
Yeah, we've had it for a couple months since we've had Pam.
Oh, okay.
Because, you know, I don't get up, you know, early enough for her to come in at 9 o'clock in the morning and start doing stuff in my rec room, and she'd, I think, you know, get the wrong idea if I asked her to come over at 3 in the morning and do some stuff when I do all my stuff. So she goes to the office and she answers the phone and she does her thing, and, you know.
Do your workers get guarantees, or is it based on the house?
Everybody's on a minimum guarantee on the shows, which is, you know, nobody's getting rich, but it's decent. It's, you know, it's not starving anybody to death for the amount of days that they're working. And then if something, you know, if something big happens and they get extra, or, you know, we try to take into account, you know, if somebody's really busting their butt or whatever, I mean, and just be fair. But, you know, a lot of times the house would work out that the guy should have made a little more, but a lot of times the house would work out the guy should have made a little less. So everybody's more happy knowing what they're going to get, regardless of how it is, than having to worry every day, oh, Jesus, this son of a gun going to draw. And you know, once again, I mean, nobody is making a fortune, but it's a whole lot fairer than a lot of people will treat you, and at the same time, you know, they feel like they're contributing to something. You know, so I think everybody for the most part is happy, and babyfaces sell the gimmicks, you know, and etc. So it's you know, if you make $1,000 in Atlanta, it's nothing, because you know, when they leave you sit home, as they often do, then that's something. But when you're traveling anywhere, you know, you're spending $100 a day when you're on the road with hotels and cars or taxis or food or, you know, whatever. You know, so here you're home almost every night. You're off a couple of days every week, so, you know, you're not killing yourself, and it's very less stressful.
Do they get bonuses for gigging like last night?
Yeah, I got that from Don Owens. Everybody gets extra $20 for or what was it, 25? Or what? No, you know. Yeah. Hey, sometimes you do and sometimes you don't. You know, it's all part of the business.
What kind of advice would you give to someone whose friends who are non-wrestling fans do nothing but ridicule the fan, to where you're just embarrassed to say?
Introduce them to Kevin Sullivan.
Well, find out if they watch golf on television. If they, there you go. You know, everybody's into something that's really fucking stupid.
Star Trek, maybe.
So find out.
Star Trek. Yeah.
I mean, you know, like if did they take a side trip, you know, last year on their vacation to visit the world's largest ball of mud, you know, whatever, and then just say, well, look, you know, you sit here and watch the guy crochet, or you got the largest videotape collection of Amazing Discoveries programs, and you know, and we'll watch wrestling, and you know, just.
But there's still something about wrestling, though. It just needs ridicule.
Yeah, but the thing is, you know, for those people, hell, who cares? Yeah.
Their problem. I don't worry about it.
Yeah, and
if someone asks you, okay, what do you do for a living? All right.
I say I don't work. No, I just say I do wrestling. And then I get like about 50 questions that all lead up to, when it's over, they go, oh, he's some retard, and we'll walk away at some point. Wrestling, you mean that WWF stuff? And I go, well, that and other stuff too. Oh, okay.
Don't you know it's fake?
That comes in. Oh, yeah. It comes in sometimes, yeah.
And then you show them how much you paid in taxes versus their income.
Yeah, but you know that was some satisfaction. You know, when we were at WCW and had the contract and everything, you know, we'd be sitting on the airplane, I'd be dressed something similar to this, because I spent a lot of money on my wardrobe outside the ring. And, you know, we'd bump up to first class for $15 because we had so many frequent flyer miles. We had gold cards on everything in sight. And there'd be these businessmen on their way to the meeting, and they have the tie. And I've never understood. They've got to where that they're 3 hours from where they're going to be. They got that tie up around their neck to the point where there's a lump on their head from blood not being able to pass through. And they got the jacket on. I'm sitting here sweating like a daggum whore in church. You know, and they've got the jacket on. and a daggum tie, and you know, and the whole thing, and they're sitting there on the plate because they have to look important, and they're looking at us like, well, how did this riffraff? And you know, I felt like saying, well, okay, take your $52,000 a year and shove it up your ass, fella, because I'm making more money than the president. You know, but you don't say that, but at least it doesn't bother you because you know that, right? But you know, don't worry about it. You know, whatever people think they're going to think.
What do you mean? You can't say don't worry about it though, because it's.
I don't worry about it. I can't in the world.
But I mean, you're making money off it, and you're making money off it.
I'll fucking leave you alone. I like watching guys roll around getting sweaty half naked. Stella, you're into that.
Well, you know,
that's a marriage proposal.
All these people, they knock wrestling, right? They say, yeah, you know, my wife or my cousin or my kids watch that. I see it every once in a while when I'm walking through the living room. And then they'll proceed to tell you everything that's happened on a show for the past 5 years. You know, so they're watching the daggum stuff. They don't want to admit it. If they don't watch it, and they're just really turned off by it, then you're not going to get them to watch it anyway. You're not going to sell them any tickets. So, you know, let them think that it sucks and just make fun of something that they love dearly. You know, like their children.
Yeah, their dogs.
Well, it's an ugly fucking kid you got there. You know? Relations with a monkey or what? Just, you know, I mean, if they just say, you know, I really don't like that stuff or whatever, well, it's okay, you know, that's fine. It's not for everybody. But if they, well, you got to be stupid and that stuff's ignorant and then just, you know, fuck with them back.
Okay.
That's your advice.
Fuck with them back.
Fuck with them back.
Okay.
That don't work, use a tennis racket.
Yeah.
Are there any potential talent exchanges with ECW or CCW coming up?
Well, we've been trying to get a contract on Big Ron and J.R. Benson to have a rematch of their big pay-per-view because the pay-per-view sold out. I don't know. And
That was after the Cow Palace sold out.
yeah, well, you know, when the pay-per-view sold out, I was too late calling my local cable company, and I missed the chance to have it in my own home. So we're trying to get you know, the rematch for the title back. You know, ECW. From what I read, we're definitely going to be sending a bunch of people up there.
Nice of you to tell them.
Yeah, if it wasn't for Dave, I wouldn't have known. Shit, I thought we were in Hazard that night. Oh well.
Do you worry about them running, the wrestlers coming out into the crowd? Because I've never seen that from in California. They don't do that, or at least the shows I've seen. And that shit was crazy.
Oh, well, let's put it this way. I wouldn't go out there because everybody knows they can whip me and I'd have to fight somebody. But I don't think anybody wants to tackle Sullivan.
Well, not so much that, though, but somebody getting hurt.
They were careful.
Yeah, right, okay.
Well, you know, I mean, hey, that's what people want to see, you know, so, heck, I don't worry as much about shit as some people do. I mean, and, you know, and those guys know not to just blatantly haul off and suplex somebody into a, you know, a 5-year-old kid or whatever.
Hey, JR got a ball of spit in his eye yesterday from the boss, man. That was...
Yeah, he is a good spitter. But, I mean, you know, geez, we've been doing it ever since I first started going to the matches. Guys in Tennessee were doing that, you know, and you know, we couldn't do it in Louisiana. We'd come back with, like, you know, knife scars from here, you know, all the way up. You know, we did it one night in Houston when we first got there. We fought to the back of the Sam Houston Coliseum with Wrestling 2 and Magnum TA. It was Bobby and Dennis. And, geez, I saw the people come. They were jumping off the... Because, I mean, people in Tennessee were used to it, right? They just kind of let people go and do their shit. I mean, there'd be Lawler picking up Coco and slamming him on Mrs. Coffee's gimmick table, and the thing would collapse, and everybody would go, oh, yeah, great. But they're in Houston, right? And the people, the Mexicans out of the grandstand, and the people start jumping over and it was like a 12-foot drop. They were jumping to the floor. What was this big, wide open floor area was like now a sea of people. It looked like a convention floor at the Democratic Convention. And I said, heck with this. I dove in a dressing room door, and Bobby was supposed to get a chair and go and run, you know, one of the babyface off or whatever. And he ducked in the door to grab the chair. When he came back out, he was like, excuse me, pardon me, excuse me. They were everywhere. And Paul Bosch came in and said, what are you doing? And there's Dundee sitting there, you know, because he was booking. And Dundee was like, well, I didn't know it would get a reaction like that. But the house was up 15 grand the next show, though. So, you know. But yeah, at different places you can do it, and different places you can't. They worried me when Thanksgiving night when they went up. Kevin and Stomper went all the way around the top of the building in Hazard, Kentucky, and I was sure that somebody was going to get stabbed. But I said, well, if Kevin wants to do it, you know, that's the biggest danger. I don't think the biggest danger is the people getting hurt. The biggest danger is the guys around here getting hurt. You know. Well, one guy when Kevin dumped Bubba over the rail last night. Yeah. There was one old man we saw on the camera was trying to shove Kevin over on top of him.
Tried to grab the
you know?
What?
Did you see the girl yesterday too who almost went into convulsions after she saw Morton? And...
Oh, I heard about her. I didn't see her.
She couldn't even stand.
She was a mess.
I was saying Tom Pritchard's going to be the ultimate heel to her now for the rest of her life.
Better look out.
Tim Warner came up to me and he broke down and came up to me and he said, you don't see this on a WWF show.
Yeah. That, you know, that's the thing, you know, talking about it, Ricky Morton's a classic babyface. I mean, he's the greatest, you know. People just, you know, they get into that. I mean, the rock and roll's town has always been Johnson City because they, you know, they were over tremendously there. That town last night show you how the business has changed in 7 years. 1986, the Great American Bash went in there and did $102,000.
What crowd is that?
The whole, huh?
What size of the crowd would that be?
Well, at their price, well, the whole place was full. I mean, the whole building. It was sold out. They turned them away. It was probably 6,500, 7,000 people. And, you know, even when WCW first took over, you'd go up there until about 1989 and do 25 grand, you know, 30 grand, and then they didn't run it, and they no-showed it.
Didn't they no-show that one to death? Was that Knoxville?
Well, all of them. Yeah. You know, all of them in Pickett. And so then, you know, after a while, well, now that WCW, the last time they ran up there, they're in Kingsport Thursday night. You know, with Flair and Sid, Vader and Sting, I think, and a bunch of Arn and Roma and everything. And they don't have any TV up there anyway. They've lost their TV up there now. But,
3 shows in West Virginia coming up the end of the week.
Yeah, Williamson, Bluefield, and Charleston. Yeah.
They do its whole show?
You know, no, they just run the show. They have to have the guys work somewhere. But they were in Bristol in June, I guess it was, and they had which is 30 miles from Johnson City last night, and had 400 people with the comps, and that was for Flair's first time back. You know,
it's like Philly. They drove because they were drawing costs with people the last couple of years there.
Well, their last Philly show, we beat them in Morristown, people-wise. You know.
Oh, Gilbert beat him the last 3 times.
Yeah.
But anyway, the thing is that the difference in that town, you know, you could do business like that 7 years ago, and now nobody can do it. It's not just, you know, it's not just us, or it's not just them, or whatever. It's just that you know, things have changed. But you know, the people are still there, and maybe one of these days they'll come back around when they get interested enough. You know, because after a while, you know, if you go by, you know, a store every day waiting to find something, the axle goes right through to the wheel. Then, if you go by a store every day waiting to buy something and they never have it in stock, after about a year or so, you're going to say, fuck it, I didn't need that thing to begin with. I'll find something else. You know, and then, you know, maybe a couple of years later, you'll stagger by and see it in the window. Well, I always wanted one of those. I'll go, you know, same thing.
What's your short-term and long-term goal with the company as far as where you want to
sell tickets?
Well, I mean, as far as like you know, like, do you have a place where you want to be? Do you want to do you want to expand as far as like geographically anymore? You want to stick to this, or?
Well, geez, you know, just for the sake of running a full-time schedule, because you can't run these towns as often as you used to either, with the economy now, as you know, the money that people have, whatever. You know, it wouldn't hurt to go the next circle around, especially like over to the Carolinas in that way, and up in West Virginia that way, with, you know, the TV markets that are adjoining, where we could just, you know, instead of having something here and then having something over here, just make the circle a little wider. You know, we're not going to go any farther over to the west because that, you know, we butt right up with the USWA.
What about like Alabama or something?
Well, that's it's kind of a pretty good little trip, and also WCW runs some of those little towns in Alabama now. That's practically all they're running. You know, this month I think is stuff in Alabama and Georgia, And then also, if you went to Birmingham and you know, big towns like that, you're talking a little bit further away, and it's going to be more expensive, and you know, I would say it'd be better for us to go the other direction because nobody's running, and it's easier drive. We had TV in Chattanooga when we first got started, but there was the Fox station there, but they wouldn't give us a better time. They put us on late at night, and then said, well, in about 2 or 3 months we can put you on during the daytime. Went on and on and on, almost a year, and never did. But you know, every time we've run shows down close to there, you know, you just don't get that same feeling even from the people that do come. It's not the same. Yeah, it's like they're, you know, and you know, so it just I would definitely go the other direction because the farther we go from Knoxville that way, like up toward the Tri-Cities and up into Kentucky and up over in the corner of Virginia, the more rabid the fans are, and the better the houses are, and the more they enjoy it. So.
Well, are you looking like, you know, wanting to get up to like, you know, a weekly thing where you're doing maybe 4 or 5 nights a week, or?
Oh yeah, well we average 4 nights a week right now. You know, in the course of the month. I would like to do, I'd like to do 22 dates a month by, you know, maybe the first part of next year. It just depends on how much TV we can get, you know, additionally, you know, this strong. The ratings are good. I mean, you know, once again, I mean, I guess the Channel 5 show in Memphis is the only wrestling show that's still doing big ratings. But we did a 4 rating and a 20 share in Johnson City in February, and then they moved us to Saturdays at noon in April. So for the May book, we'd only been in that spot about a month, and we tied for the #1 program in the slot. We're #1 on the Fox station in Knoxville. We're still the #1 program in the time slot, and the WWF does a 2 and I think a 2 and an 8, and we do a 3 and a 12, you know, right afterwards. Hazard was good, you know. I mean, everywhere that we've got a decent station or a decent time slot, you know, like the show we have on over in Hickory, North Carolina. I mean, at Channel 14, you can get it like if you're sitting, you know, having a picnic down below the transmitter. But you know, people still come. I mean, we did $3,500 in Morganton, North Carolina, just off little old Channel 14, you know, back in March. So. You know, they watch it, it seems like, but everywhere we're on a reputable station, you know, we've got good numbers.
What was the paid attendance last night? Was it what you expected or better? Or?
You know, as a matter of fact, when I heard the advance, I said, boy, I'd be happy with 10 grand, and that was $32 off, I think. So I said, okay, I'll take it. It was right at 1,400 people. You know, so I definitely got to be happy because it's the best house we've done there. Of course, I would have really liked to do about $27,000. But you know,
what do you expect?
Yeah, I would have been real disappointed with anything under like 1,200 people. You know, so that was in the happy range. And I think Knoxville, ever since November, the Knoxville show has always been better than the Johnson City show. So I think that'll be hopefully the case again this week also.
I think your promo on Down and Dirty with Dutch show.
We'll see. You know.
What do you mean?
Well, we'll see. We'll see if they turn out.
Do you have a number you're hoping for? Attendance number for Knoxville?
You know what? I'm gonna wait and see what the advance is.
Don't jinx yourself.
The tickets go on sale this week.
Oh, they're not.
See, that's another thing. You know, a lot of people don't realize the Coliseum charges you in Knoxville for every day tickets are on sale. So we start. Yeah. Oh, these buildings.
Right, the box office charge?
Yeah. Every day.
Like they also tickets from like.
Well, see, they got Ticketmaster, and also, see, we sell like when we had over 1,000 people at the Coliseum for the last show or whatever, and I think we sold like 27 tickets through Ticketmaster. Wrestling fans, they either come to the Coliseum and get their tickets in advance the day they go on sale, or they buy them at the door. But you gotta pay the Ticketmaster charge anyway. You know, and they just sit there, and you got to you got to pay the box office charge. So when we put tickets on sale 2 weeks out and pay, you know, $50 a day, then that's a lot of money when you can put them on sale 4 days before the show and do the same thing. Because, see, in Morristown, we did 9 times our advance. See, the towns down here, you know, I mean, I remember going to Baltimore, the first time I went to Baltimore for Jim Crockett, and Gary Juster said, well, the advance is $60,000. I said, my God, we're going to have a riot. We won't be able to get the people in the building, and the house was 72. I said, what happened, Gary? He said, well, we had a $12,000 walk-up. I said, geez, because I was used to in Tennessee, like in Memphis at 5 o'clock on the day of the show, if you had $5 grand, you were going to do probably 15 to 20. you know, you always do 3 to 4 times your advance, and on the spot shows, we often do 10 times the advance. People, you know, they just come on.
So again, what could explain that?
What product?
Well, no, I mean, you're going to get the same house. It's just the thing. Number one, it ain't a big hassle for people to get to any of these places. It's like, you know, it's not like up north where you got to fight an hour and a half of traffic to get across town. I don't want to keep knocking, but you know, you got to fight.
They deserve it. Knock them. Knock them.
You know, you got your regulars that are going to take your first 3 or 4 rows of ringside, and then everybody else is just going to, you know, do whatever when they get there. And people from out of town come in, and they just say, well, we'll go that night. You know, and then with the spot shows in these little towns and the high school gyms, you know, the sponsors will go out and they'll push the advanced tickets, some better than others. And then, you know, a lot of people will come from 20 miles down the road or 30 miles across the hill or on the other side of the holler, and they'll say, well, we'll just, you know, we'll go and we'll get the ticket when we get there. So.
What about athletic commissions? You deal in like 4 states, right? Do you have troubles with some of the action, like licensing and that kind of thing?
Well, no, there's a commission in Kentucky and there's one in Virginia, and it's 5% tax, so they get 5% of whatever the house is, just like that. You know,
like, you know, Mike's from Portland, and they have, you know, no, the biggest commission.
No, I haven't seen a commissioner.
Like Maryland or anything.
Oh no, geez, in Maryland they got more commissioners than they do wrestlers. No, basically we fill out a piece of paper. It says, okay, here's what the gate was, and here's what your 5% is, and here it is. And
so
then
they don't really have any rules as far as action or.
We're like fighting outside.
No, Jesus Christ.
No, none of the states.
Well, they may have them, but I mean, you don't have any commissioners there. So you just send them the money, and then you send them a list of the guys you're going to have on the card, and they write you back and say, okay, these guys need licenses, $10 a piece. They fill out a little thing, they get a receipt, and you send them the $10, and they get a license. You know, so they don't mess with us. Now, like if you go over to Richmond, because the Virginia Commission's a little, you know, if you go over to Richmond, then they'll send a commissioner there, and he might, you know, look half crossways at some things sometimes. But I mean, I've never seen anything like when we used to go up to New York, we had to get fingerprinted, EKG, and a daggum brain scan. Doctor stuck his finger up my ass one time. Go to New York to be a manager. I don't know what that. Well, maybe. What am I thinking about? Of course. No wonder I had to have a proctological exam to go to New York State and be a manager.
Do you see like the territories coming back in the future?
Eventually, yeah.
Like the NWA with one governing champion who will defend in each territory?
I don't know about that. What do you think, Dave? You know.
No way. No way.
I don't think there's going to ever be that many people that you know. I mean, after you've broken up with your first wife for the second time, you know, trust breaks up. That's how this whole business got screwed up is by everybody trusting everybody a little too much. I mean, nobody ever trusted anybody to begin with, but you know, they took their eye off a couple people for too long, and but territories will come back, I think, you know, just because, you know, I mean, even Vince is pulling back to where he doesn't run all across the whole country, you know, on the scale that he used to, and you know, if enough people can just get some, you know, ideas and talent and TV and etc. together and do it, you know, then I think they could.
Yeah, but here's the thing. How hard, you know, you had a hard time your first year. You struggled. You had a lot of perseverance, put in a hell of a lot of work, and you know more about the business than 99.9% of the people.
I love him.
Well, it's true. That's not, you know, I mean, that's just true. I mean, like, you know, most of the people, I'm not saying that it couldn't be done, but most of the people who would go in there and start it would fuck up in one of 50 different ways that you would know because you've seen all the obstacles. And I don't know how many of them would get through all those obstacles. I mean, some people, there probably are people who could, but...
Well, you know, it just depends on when people like wrestling a little more, it'll get easier.
Yeah,
you know?
True too.
So that may be something, and then, you know, I mean, boy, we have a great product, but by gum, you know, all the things that we have done to get there and to put the stuff out and put it on TV and everything, you know.
What was the hardest thing? Was it getting TVs?
Yeah, it still is. Yeah. You know, just because they're just, you know, they don't care, you know, and they got all kinds of other things that they can look at. You know, and you can go, well, you know, am I going to run a show and it's going to cost me $1,200 and I might draw 14, so I'll make $200 and I'll just pay the guys $50. You know, some people will do that, or some people will say, well, I'll spend, you know, $25,000 on 2 nights of TV taping, you know, like Todd Gordon did, and you know, and maybe they'll come eventually, you know, and then, you know, try to split the difference and you know, not spend a ridiculous amount of money, maybe lose some for a while, but, you know, at least put on a good show to where that you will build, and you know, eventually if you can just hang in there and scrape around with stuff and just keep, you know, keep good talent, keep having good shows, the people will start coming, you know, more regularly. So there's all kind of different ways that people would go at it, and who knows what's going to go and what's not. You know, I think if you spend the 25 grand on, you know, on one show and hope that they'll come in the future because it was such a spectacular, then you got to be Ted Turner to have that much money. And if you spend $1,200 on a show and it's, you know, it's the shits because you didn't have any talent, then people ain't gonna ever come back. So I think the medium ground is the best way to do it. I mean, I remember hearing what Joel Goodhart was spending on the shows they had up there, and gee, many Christ almighty, he had a $31,000 house and only made like $1,500.
Or you lose like 1,000 or so, he said.
Yeah,
That's another man. Not that you trust me,
well, I'll tell you what, just judging from the fact I know what he paid us and I know what he paid a lot of other people, and I could account for about half of his gate in payoffs and trance. You know, and then I know they got all those unions up. And see, like that Pennsylvania Hall, it was $10,000 to get in there and everything. Geez, we could run the Knoxville Coliseum for 4 months. You know, for that.
You had to take Spectre Guard to run the security because they had the contract on the building. So it was big money there.
Can you ever see it being like with ESPN2 starting? Granted, you're not going to go national. You know, the shows themselves, because the live shows. Could you ever see it being on cable, being on national cable,
or pay-per-view maybe?
God, putting the cart in front of the horse here now, Wade. Yeah, Wade will ask you what. Well, if you were offered the job as booker of the World Wrestling Federation, well, geez, let's hold it. You know, I don't think we're going to be doing any pay-per-views anytime in a very near or even probably distant future. You know, I mean, I don't know if they were interested in it. I don't know how it would be of a real big benefit because, you know, Jerry Jarrett told me that the time that he was on ESPN was more of a pain in the ass to him than anything else because, you know, they were selling the commercial time, but by the time you get, you know, they bill and it takes 4 months to get it, and you got to split with people.
But he's probably hoping for a long-run payoff.
Oh, well, you know, I would imagine because, you know, Jarrett's a smart guy, but, you know, and that's why I think what was all the twists and turns that went on with that Texas office when Max Andrews split off and Jarrett was out of it and everything? And you know, I said, well, somewhere or another, Andrews didn't take anything from Jerry Jarrett. Jerry Jarrett gave Max Andrews something he didn't want. You know, but if it could be of a benefit somehow to us, I mean, I'd be fine to be on ESPN, but I wouldn't, you know, change
push for it or do
change
anything.
the shit that we're doing, try to sell tickets here, just, you know, just because they said, okay, you can't hit nobody with a tennis racket.
Yeah, my
you know.
God.
Yeah, after all the crap they used to leap off of there.
Yeah.
Every time you go for a chair shot, they'd show the shot of the same fan week after week after week. They got the flannel shirt, the
Have you ever looked into like foreign markets as far as you know, just sending your tapes?
We're doing that right now. As a matter of fact, we've already got one sale, and we're just waiting on when we're supposed to start in the Middle East, wherever that may be. I'm like, we got a guy in England that's doing this stuff. He's got a company over there, and he's doing this stuff, and hopefully, you know, what I'd like to see is that we get 3 or 4 sales over there and we get all our production paid for, then it's like we're getting the TV for nothing, you know.
Well, I know friends in Israel who hate you, even, so.
Ah, well, excellent. Well, I got a couple of pals over in Illinois that can't stand you either.
What else do you like to do that's not wrestling related? Is
there something like that?
If you ever take time off, or if you ever get burnt out times where...
typewriter ever?
Yeah, I've done that. Well, actually, that was just an inanimate object that I just said. I like to beat things with hammers and blunt objects.
Living things or inanimate objects?
Just depends on the instance. I haven't done anything that's not related to this in a long time, really, for more than like 6 or 8 hours at a time. I mean, you know, I think we went to the movie, you know, me and Bruce Brothers and the Bodies on the way to the town the other day because we had to check out of the hotel early and had time to kill, and that's the first movie I'd been to in like 6 months.
And you went to see Grunt?
No. We went to see Well, we went to see Coneheads, and then the next week we did it again, 'cause same thing, and check out early, and we went to see the, what was it? What did we go to see? It was better than Coneheads. See, that's how long that these things, I think, well, I went to sleep on the end of Coneheads because I was tired anyway, and when they went back to Remulac, I nodded off, and I woke up and they were waving goodbye to the ship.
Great, you gave away the finish now.
Oh, sorry. But anyway, well, I didn't say where they were on, you know. But anyway, you know, I don't do anything else. I really don't do anything.
You ever see yourself getting burned out, especially at the pace you're going now?
No, well, wrestling-wise, I never get tired of wrestling. I just get tired of dealing with the miscellaneous bullshit from the, you know, the printers say that their press broke down. They can't get the program here till Friday. You know, the Coliseum says that they can't have that spotlight unless you pay an extra $122. You know, that stuff, I can't stand that shit. I just tend to just cuss people a lot. You know.
So you can't hire someone to cuss for you, or?
Well, it doesn't have the same authority as what what was it I told Kevin was on at TV. I like to cuss at TV. Kevin was on the headset. He was the stage manager, and he was talking to Al, who's the producer, and I said, "You tell it, goddamn Al, I want this, that, and the other thing, and da-da-da-da." I cut like a 90-second promo. I said, "Now you tell him." I said, "Never mind, I'll tell him. It won't sound the same coming from you." You know, I just, that's all that shit. I mean, you know, if we want to spend $27 million, we could hire a bunch of people to take care of all that stuff.
But I think you should put a little more faith in other people there. Well, I think you can have a nervous breakdown or something.
Oh yeah, that's close. You know, I've never trusted too many people. You know, and that's why, like, you know, Brian. You know, and well, KC now. KC's on the ball. KC's also over there asleep. But, no, you know, we had poor Flash over here. Our second referee, Flash, he was like running posters and stuff, and if you told him to go to Taco Bell and take a shit, he'd have trouble finishing the second part of it. But, you know, there's a few people that can do stuff, but besides for Brian, who's been around the business a long time, and Casey, who loves the business, and, you know, and all the other people here, and Sandy, who's been in the business for 30 years, you know, you can't find a lot of people that you can get that know, you know, the business well.
And who love it enough to where they're not in for it just for cash.
Yeah, and,
I hope.
You know, and here's Kevin down here, who's, you know, who's been doing a lot of stuff, you know, even though he's young, he's been doing a lot of stuff in the business, been around it for a long time, you know, but you can't find guys like that, you know, a lot, so it's always like they always then have to come back and ask you, and by the time that they finish asking you all this shit, you figure, well, geez, I could have done it myself and just done it the way I wanted to and wouldn't have to explain to somebody, you know. But I never get burnt out on the wrestling stuff. I never get burnt out on that. I just get burnt out on the daggum aggravating details that go along with, you know, running any kind of business. So, and that's, you know, one of these days I will throttle somebody for that.
So what will the 70-year-old Jim Cornette be like?
Oh, God.
Think I'll make it that far?
Well, I don't know.
What is he, Barbara Walters now? If you were a tree, what kind of tree would you be? Geez, I have no earthly idea. I'd just like to be able to get Johnson City up to about 15 grand. I'll worry about being 70 when I'm 65 or something, and you know. Yeah, I'll have a horrible case of tennis elbow by then. Yeah, I'll be like Pat Malone. I'll be sitting out in front of the dressing room in the Knoxville Civic Coliseum with a stack of programs over here, bringing little black kids and giving them 5 at a time, saying, "You bring him back, boy. You sell him, I'll give you a nickel apiece. You can't go in that dressing room, boy. Get out of here." You know, that's Eddie Marlin, yeah. Yeah, probably. You know, probably.
Well, what if something were to happen to you? Not severely, but an auto accident, you know, where you're...
Was this a threat? Come on. Casey, get in front of me.
Everything you've worked for could go down the tubes because no one has any idea what's actually going on.
No one can pass a torch.
Well...
And then, let's say in 20 years, when you don't want to have all this burden, there's nobody that knows what's going on anyway.
Oh, no, because in 20 years, if we're still around, then we'll be making enough money that I can hire everybody to answer the daggum telephone, and I can just sit and do the TVs and the finishes and the, you know.
But they won't know what they're doing, and the same thing's going to happen.
I can still see you in 20 years. No, well, just tell them this. I can do it myself.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, but you know, well, I mean, if something did it, but the, you know, daggum thing is, you know, everybody can get hit by a bread truck, whatever, you know. If I'm in an iron lung, I'll be at the daggum show, you know. Huh?
Watermelon truck?
Watermelon truck, even better.
It's hard to get hit with a bread truck when you're downstairs all the time, though.
Yeah, yeah, I'm underground. I'm underground. Down in the dungeon. Yeah.
You told the story in the Torch Annual about one of the riots in the Mid-South, which ended up in the back with Bill Watts standing on somebody's head.
Oh,
yeah. I'd like to hear that from you directly, actually.
Well, boy, it was like one of the first month that we were down there, and I was still petrified of these people, you know, because, I mean, I'd been punched 2 or 3 times in Memphis, but, I mean, these people were coming at you on a daily basis. And we're in Tulsa, and there's half a dozen cops around us, and I think, well, I'm okay. And this guy must have just started up at the top of the building and ran down the steps and dove over the cops and punched me right in the nose. Before I mean, he was up in the air, his feet were off the ground. Whoa! Well, God damn. And he drops then in a heap, and my nose, both sides are bleeding, right? And I went to grab him, and the cops went to grab him, and he went to grab me, and to keep the cops from dragging him away, he latched onto my waist, but I had him around the head, and the cops had, you know, like a leg and a pant leg and an arm, and Bobby used to carry the racket then, but then he started breaking it over so many people's heads, he was afraid he was going to kill somebody, so he gave
Put a little more faith in other people there. Well, I think you can have a nervous breakdown or something.
Oh yeah, that's close. You know, I've never trusted too many people. You know, and that's why, like, you know, Brian. You know, and well, KC now. KC's on the ball. KC's also over there asleep. But no, you know, we had poor Flash over here. Our second referee, Flash, he was like running posters and stuff, and if you told him to go to Taco Bell and take a shit, he'd have trouble finishing the second part of it. But, you know, there's a few people that can do stuff, but besides for Brian, who's been around the business a long time, and Casey, who loves the business, and, you know, and all the other people here, and Sandy, who's been in the business for 30 years, you know, you can't find a lot of people that you can get that know, you know, the business well.
And who love it enough to where they're not in for it just for cash.
Yeah, and
I hope.
You know, and here's Kevin down here, who's, you know, who's been doing a lot of stuff. You know, even though he's young, he's been doing a lot of stuff in the business, been around it for a long time. You know, but you can't find guys like that, you know, a lot. So it's always like they always then have to come back and ask you. And by the time that they finish asking you all this shit, you figure, well, geez, I could have done it myself and just done it the way I wanted to, and wouldn't have to explain to somebody, you know. But I never get burnt out on the wrestling stuff. I never get burnt out on that. I just get burnt out on the daggum aggravating details that go along with, you know, running any kind of business. So, and that's, you know, one of these days I will throttle somebody for that.
So what will the 70-year-old Jim Cornette be like?
Oh, God.
Think I'll make it that far?
Well, I don't know.
What is he, Barbara Walters now? If you were a tree, what kind of tree would you be? Geez, I have no earthly idea. I'd just like to be able to get Johnson City up to about 15 grand. I'll worry about being 70 when I'm 65 or something, and you know. Yeah, I'll have a horrible case of tennis elbow by then. Yeah, I'll be like Pat Malone. I'll be sitting out in front of the dressing room in the Knoxville Civic Coliseum with a stack of programs over here, bringing little black kids and giving them 5 at a time, saying, "You bring him back, boy. You sell him, I'll give you a nickel apiece. You can't go in that dressing room, boy. Get out of here." You know, that's Eddie Marlin. Yeah. Yeah, probably. You know, probably.
Well, what if something were to happen to you? Not severely, but an auto accident, you know, where you're...
Was this a threat? Casey, get in front of me.
Everything you've worked for could go down the tubes because no one has any idea what's actually going on.
No one can pass a torch.
Well...
And then, let's say in 20 years, when you don't want to have all this burden, there's nobody that knows what's going on anyway.
Oh, no, because in 20 years, if we're still around, then we'll be making enough money that I can hire everybody to answer the daggum telephone, and I can just sit and do the TVs and the finishes and the, you know.
But they won't know what they're doing, and the same thing's going to happen.
I can still see you in 20 years. No, well, just tell them this. I can do it myself.
Yeah, I'll do it. I don't know, yeah. But, you know, well, I mean, if something did it, but, you know, daggum thing is, you know, everybody can get hit by a bread truck, whatever, you know. If I'm in an iron lung, I'll be at the daggum show, you know. Huh?
Watermelon truck?
Watermelon truck, even better.
It's hard to get hit with a bread truck when you're downstairs all the time, though.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm underground. I'm underground. Down in the dungeon. Yeah.
You told the story in the Torch Annual about one of the riots in the Mid-South, which ended up in the back with Bill Watts standing on somebody's head.
Oh.
I'd like to hear that from you directly, actually.
Well, boy, it was like one of the first month that we were down there, and I was still petrified of these people, you know, because, I mean, I'd been punched 2 or 3 times in Memphis, but, I mean, these people were coming at you on a daily basis. And we're in Tulsa, and there's a half a dozen cops around us, and I think, well, I'm okay. And this guy must have just started up at the top of the building and ran down the steps and dove over the cops and punched me right in the nose. Before I mean, he was up in the air, his feet were off the ground. Whoa! Well, God damn. And he drops then in a heap, and my nose, both sides are bleeding, right? And I went to grab him, and the cops went to grab him, and he went to grab me, and to keep the cops from dragging him away, he latched onto my waist, but I had him around the head, and the cops had, you know, like a leg and a pant leg and an arm, and Bobby used to carry the racket then, but then he started breaking it over so many people's heads. He was afraid he was going to kill somebody, so he gave it to me, you know, but Bobby would carry it to the back, right, to, you know, lead the way. So Bobby's got the racket, and Bobby's trying to hit the guy, right? And I've got him like this, and I'm just trying to stick my thumb in his eye or something, or, you know, whatever. And Dennis is trying to kick him, and here comes Buddy Landell, because Buddy always used to ride with us, and he'd work, and then he'd come get dressed, and he'd come and help us fight our way back, you know. I mean, seriously, he'd help us fight our way back. He was always there to help walk us down the aisle. And Grizzly Smith came out, so the guy's pushing me in this direction, right? While all this stuff is going on, everybody independently is doing all this, and it's just like a Tasmanian devil going toward the dressing room. And he's pushing me because he's trying to get away from all this shit, but he's pushing me toward the door, and I figured, well, great, this is where I want to go anyway. So finally, we all go down in a daggum heap on the ground, and just then Grizzly Smith goes and grabs the guy by the hair. When he does, Bobby brings a racket down, sliced every bit of skin right off of Grizzly's hand, just busted his knuckle, everything, all the way down. He's, God damn it, Bobby, get this. And we're all still trying to kick the guy, and the cop's there, and Watts appears, you know. Everybody, get back to the dressing room. And he grabs this guy by the hair and pulls him across the floor himself. He's backpedaling, he's pulling him in there, throws him up against the wall, and he's trying to hit he said, so you want to fight some wrestlers, huh? And he's trying to hit the guy, and every time he throws him up against the wall and draws back, the guy goes like that. So it was great, it was great. He grabs the guy's left arm, and he slaps it up against the wall, and he says, Jake, you know, Grizzly, right? Jake, hold this. And Grizz just went, and now he's got him. Down he goes, and if he had his boots on, he'd killed him, but he had tennis shoes on, just like mine, and he got up and he stood on the guy's head, and he's standing there, you know, selling like that, and cops with sticks and mace and all this shit. No problem.
Was it so bad, like, if you were in town, maybe getting gas, something to eat, you were always looking over your shoulder, like?
Go to the drive-thru.
Yeah.
Don't get out of your car. Go to the drive-thru, find a gas station with nobody there. They jumped Dennis in a 7-Eleven, Dennis Condrey. If they would fight him, they would seriously consider fighting me, you know, no matter where it was at. So if I was alone, I always went to the drive-thru, and I never got out before there was anybody else around.
You ever people following you on the freeway? Like,
oh yeah, especially in Alexandria, because they knew a lot of the guys lived in Alexandria. So they try to follow you from the Coliseum, so I just take them around the traffic circle. And after about third or fourth time around, they'd figure, well, this son of a bitch is going to go around until we get off, so they'd quit, you know. But yeah, you always kept an eye on them, because they would do anything.
Did things like that ever make you want to just get out of it? I mean, does it say it's worth it?
I hated Tulsa. I hated it because like 5 or 6 shows in a row, we had like just a big major schmoz there with cops and people and more than one guy and everything, you know, and I hated that place. Every place else, you know, I mean, I was nervous on a nightly basis, but Tulsa was the worst. And I mean, we got the Midnight Express was responsible for the Tulsa City Police not being allowed to work security at the wrestling matches anymore because they had a big schmoz with like 5 or 6 people, and one of the guys that got beat up was a highway patrolman's son, and they had the internal affairs people come down and investigate, because I mean, they were stacked up like goddamn, it was unbelievable. Blood down the wall like Alfred Hitchcock. That's good.
All right.
And that's going to be an interesting video. So I was always just reluctant to go there. It was Tulsa was Watts' hometown, right? So, you know, that was his pet little town. But I hated that place, and when we worked with him there, that's the one time.
I was going to ask you,
because I thought,
like the scariest things you did?
Yeah, and especially
like
there.
The biggest matches of your career?
Oh yeah.
Biggest thing you ever participated in?
But when we went to Tulsa, it was the fairgrounds. They were all drunk cowboys. Everybody's got a hat. I mean, it looked like the daggum national, you know, manufacturing center for a Dodge truck, the parking lot. And the building was supposed to hold 6,000. There was like 8,000 in there. They were standing, and the whole floor was packed. And now it was the sheriff's department now instead of the Tulsa City Police. The sheriffs were all about this tall and 58 years old. And the match before we went out, a guy tried to hit Nikolai Volkov with a chair, and he ducked and got the cop. Horse collared him with the chair, and the cop comes back, and he's all shook up, and they're helping him out. And I'm thinking, well, fuck, these are guys protecting us. You know, so we go out there, and the deal was, if Watson Dog won, then I would wear a dress, right? Which I would do gladly, provided nobody killed me.
You made fun of me for that?
And, yeah. Well, hey, Bill Watts didn't force you in yours.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, we had the match, and when Watts started selling, gee, many Christ, to people, and I, you know, and then I couldn't wear. I always wore a bulletproof vest in Tulsa, and not. I mean, seriously, not for bullets. I didn't think anybody was going to shoot me, but no, for knives, because that was an imminent possibility all the time. You know, because they were taking them off people right and left, and they stopped. Now, if anybody shot me, I'd die of suffocation. Because I'd smother myself in shit. You know, but you know, I'll always wear that because, you know, if anybody stuck you, it would stop it, and I'm terrified of knives, you know. So, anyway, but I couldn't do that because they were going to strip me and put the dress on me. So I'm standing out there at ringside, we're beating up Tulsa's favorite son. There's 8,000 drunk cowboys that want to kill us. I'm thinking, if we fucked up, if he trips and knocks himself out and we have to win this match, they're going to have a helicopter to get us out of the ring. Luckily, of course, everything goes well, and Watts, they not only get juice on both Bobby and Dennis, but they pin them, they throw them out of the ring, and they cart them back off to the dressing room now. They jerk me in, strip my clothes off, Dog slaps me around, they strip me down, and they put me in the pink dress, right? So I pretty well know that I've got no heat on me whatsoever left at this point. I roll out of that ring, and 3 or 4 cops grab me and say, "Run." Oh, fuck. I've got my dress shoes on, a tennis racket, and a pink dress. And they scoop me up by the arms, and they start running me down the aisle. And as they're running me down the aisle, the people are snatching the cops off of me. So I've got start out with 4, then I've got 3, then I've got 2, now I've got 1, and I look around to say something to him, and all I see is the worried look on his face as he falls to the ground. People trying to kick me have tripped all the cops up, and they're fucking fighting people. So now I'm alone. I've got about from here to that back wall to go through people in an open area just like this. And I said, fuck, I'm at a dead run. I'm doing the daggum helicopter thing with the racket out in front of me, you know, just hitting men, women, children. I don't give a fuck. And I'm running so fast, they're trying to trip me, but I've got my feet under me, and I'm not going down. I can't stop, but I'm not going down. Now, right there is the entrance to the locker room area. It's the big garage door at the back of the fairgrounds. It's a huge, horrible thunderstorm that day, and Bill Watts has pulled his Rolls Royce out of the elements to safety, parked it right there, so you got to walk on this side to go to the heel side, that side to go to the babyface side. I'm about 30 feet from it at a dead run. There's bottles landing on one side of me, cups of ice and shit, and there's Jim Ross spread-eagled over the roof of that Rolls Royce. Get away from the car! Get away from the car! Like this with a racket, I said, fuck the car! And I went right through it, and it sounded like rain on a tin roof. Bing, 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 bing. I said, fuck it, I'm never coming back here again. And God, and that's just, every time you went to Tulsa was shit like that. And it was, they had places in southern Louisiana you couldn't, they didn't speak English. Homa.
Let's hear it.
Jeez, well, you know, that wasn't even, the worst one was Galliano, which was even farther down south than Homa. We were on a Sunday afternoon, it was just a normal spot show. You know, everybody was roaring drunk, the place was sold out. They were all French. The Cajun girl that sold the gimmicks couldn't speak to them. You know, she didn't know what they were saying. And I mean, we hadn't even gotten a ring yet. This guy threw a cup of beer at Bobby, and Bobby he was blind, he couldn't see, and the guy was stripping his shirt off. And Bobby was reaching for my jacket to wipe his eyes. I was getting my mace out, you know, threw Dennis the racket. We're getting ready to fight him here, you know, just all kind of shit like that. After we got out of the ring, well, what we did was it was Junkyard Dog and Magnum TA, and we're going to get disqualified. So we just took bumps the whole match, right, and then finally Magnum rolls Bobby up, and Dennis grabs him, throws him over the top rope. By the time he hit the ground, we were halfway down the aisle. So we just ran in the dressing room. They locked us in the dressing room. From the outside, the sponsors of the show they locked us in the dressing room till they could clear the building. Then they came and got us. They surrounded us and walked us to the car, and then they surrounded the car and walked the car out of the... I felt like I was in a federal witness protection program. And Jimmy Garvin was there. They brought a Dallas match over, and Jimmy Garvin was wrestling Chris Adams, and Precious was with Jimmy. And she went out to the ring. The guys were just walking up and pinching her ass, and, you know, she had to come back, and, you know, she just came back and sat in the dressing room, and the whole match, Jimmy Garvin didn't break one rule. You know, he's got, like, Adams got him in an arm bar, and Adams says, rake my eyes, and Jimmy says, what? Surely you must confuse me with someone who wants to die. I just prefer to wrestle on the mat in a high school fashion.
What about the time in Memphis with Lawler's money?
Oh, Jesus Christ. As a matter of fact, I thank your dad for this, because I know now never to have another one of these fucking matches again. It's going to be the deal. Me and Jimmy Hart have a perfect record. As partners in handicap matches, we've never won one. So they have this match in Memphis where it's me and Jimmy Hart against, believe it or not, Bobby Eaton. And the deal is, if we don't win the match, then we're going to throw $5,000 out to the crowd. Now, bear in mind, we've never won a match before, so we ain't going to beat Bobby Eaton, Jesus Christ. So we're back there to back, and Lawler's got a big cardboard box. He's got like $172 in $1 bills or whatever. He says, help me crumple these up, make it look like a lot, you know. We're crumpling them up, we throw them in the box, and it's about that deep in the box. That looks good, you know. And he says, now look, he says, take this out. And the assassin was going to go out with us. When the referee's back was turned after Bobby had beat us up, assassin was going to headbutt Bobby, and Jimmy would cover him, 1, 2, 3, and I'd get the box of money, and we'd hold it up in the air, and Bobby would pickle me, and I'd drop the box, and he'd pickle Jimmy, and he'd pickle the assassin, and he'd grab the box, and he'd go 1 handful, 2 handfuls, and then we'd stop him and get the money back and run. He said, now, and Lawler said, now, don't lose, you know, don't lose too much of my money now, just 2 handfuls is good, you know. Okay. Boom, we beat Bobby, 1, 2, 3, I get the box, he hits me, I drop the box, he has us all out, he grabs 1 handful, 2 handfuls, all of a sudden, there's about 15 black kids in the ring. Then, wait a minute, now there's about 15 teenagers. Wait a minute, now there's about 20 adults. There was 50 people in that goddamn ring by the time that we could even get to Bobby. By the time the box was gone, the money was gone, everything was... And I'm there, I'm behind the assassin, Roger Smith, and Jimmy's over on the other side of the ring not knowing what to do. He's kind of half in it, half out of it, and there's people, it was more crowded than any battle royal I've ever seen in my life, with people, and now they're fighting each other for the money.
Oh, shit.
And I go, Jimmy, come here. Jimmy, come here. I'm thinking, Roger can protect us. He's 300 pounds. And that third time I turn around, all of a sudden I'm sitting in the ring like this, and the whole ring's empty. And Jimmy and Roger are holding my arms. And I said, what happened? They said, you passed out. I said, if I passed out, why does my jaw hurt? Sam Lowe was the only one. Somebody, he said, just a hand right there. And later on, everything was gone. We never saw a trace of that box, the plastic wrap, the money, everything was gone. The floor, I got the floor camera of it, and it's like after that second handful, you see people start piling in, and seconds later, the camera does this number, and it goes to black, and then Lance comes up on they put it on the show, Lance comes up and says, well, we want to remind you, partners, never, ever get in a wrestling ring. Everything, you know, so I said, fuck that match. I'm not having that match anymore.
Jim, what's the managerial highlight of your career so far? Not Smoky Mountain, but start to now.
I think those last Stampede matches with Watts, because, I mean, you know, when we worked for Crockett and had all of the matches going on with the rock and roll and big houses and all that stuff, I mean, you always had, you had Ric Flair on the card, you had Dusty Rhodes on the card, or the Road Warriors. Well, sometimes we did and sometimes we didn't, you know. We had the first sellout in Charlotte since '78 with Flair and Mulligan with the rock and roll, with no Flair, no Dusty, and no Road Warriors. You know, so that was pretty good. Then Dusty got hot too. But the last Stampede, you know, was really, and I mean there was a lot of other good talent on the cards, but that's what everybody came to see that one time. It was just perfect, you know, and it just, the whole thing was perfect. So I think that, you know, was probably the best thing that I ever did.
What about the low light, the worst thing?
Worst miserable, or worst bad, or worst...
Whatever.
Our famed angle with the New Breed was, you know... gosh, I don't know. I try to tend to forget about the really horrible stuff. You know, we did, you know, a bunch of shitty stuff when we were baby faces after the original Midnight Express, you know, and before the Dynamic Dudes thing, you know, having those horrible, stinky matches with the Freebirds and the Samoans. That was really like just embarrassing stuff. Oh God, boy, there's 3 tag teams for you: the Samoans, the Freebirds of Hayes and Garvin, and the Skyscrapers. That if you wanted to do as much damage as possible to any wrestling promotion, put all 3 of them in the ring and just let them go. It was horrible. It was horrible.
Do you have any interesting Von Erich stories?
You know, I mean, just little, not really as good as everybody else does. And I mean, you know, Wade's printed a few of them because everybody asked me. We weren't around them that much. You know, they were off where the money was. We were, we were just, you know, over there with the Fantastics talking about our match, and they were, you know.
God, watching you with Loran, some of those interviews.
You know, it was fun, but it was fun for me because when we went to do the Fort Worth TVs, the first week I was there, I said, okay, we're going to the ring, we're talking about, okay, how long do I have? And they said, well, they're open-ended, just don't let them drag. You know, yeah, I mean, like 6-7 minutes, and they didn't give a shit because they had to fill a 2-hour show with 4 matches anyway.
So would you plan this out ahead of time? Like, I'm going to say this, or you just go in there with, how would you plan an interview?
I just find out what the matches were and talk about them, and if I thought of something to say about somebody, I just keep it till I had an opportunity to talk about them, or, you know.
Same thing with just this last Down and Dirty with Dash?
Yeah, I just, really, when you think about it, I just talked, I explained the stipulations of both matches and talked about why that I would not want to be in them and why Bob Armstrong wanted them.
What was the thing that you've done during your career as far as that got, like, or maybe not even done, but something like someone suggested for you to do, like a match or just do something stupid that got you the hottest of anything?
God, I'm trying to think. Let's see. The pumpkin on the head at Halloween Havoc. Yeah. Oh God Almighty, that was without doubt the dumbest thing. You know. has everybody read, did I need to tell that again, or has everybody read the Torch annual? I told it.
Please tell it.
Well, you know, we were miserable to begin with. I was miserable.
Didn't you like quit a week later?
Hell, 3 days. We go to Halloween. Then they renewed us. You know, and we're just doing all this stupid shit, and you know, none of it was working, and it was horrible and miserable, flying around all over the place. Well, we go to Halloween Havoc, the one where they had Wyndham dressed up as Sting in 1990, right?
You did incredible commentary.
And no, I didn't do commentary on that one. No. This was the one where the midnight was on the first match with Ricky Morton and Tommy Rich.
Right. Yeah, that's right. But you came out for that match. You did commentary dangerously and.
Oh, on the Southern Boys. Okay, yeah, I did. Okay. But anyway, so we go in there, and first I see everybody's, there's Jim Ross as Dracula, and Missy's the Wicked Witch or whatever, and Gary Capetta's a ringmaster, and Norman is a fucking pumpkin, and all this goofy shit. And then we had just, Jim Ross had called us, and had called me and said, hey, wouldn't it be great if you could work with the Southern Boys? I said, yeah, it sure would be great, because we had that match with them in Baltimore at the Great American Bash that I thought was the best Midnight Express match of the time that WCW owned the company, and never wrestled them again. Never, and the people in Baltimore gave the Southern Boys a standing ovation. So tell me how good that had to be, because they wanted desperately to hate them, right? So anyway, Ross calls, says, hey, could y'all work with Southern Boys? Great, well, let's do this and that, da-da-da. And you know, this and that and the other thing. We talked about, you know, how we would do it. And boy, we could go to Starrcade, and we could, you know, have Tracy Smothers and Steve Armstrong scheduled against the Midnight Express, and we could say, you know, Ross said we could get you in the ring, because they wanted to do something with the Giant. And Ross said, maybe you can get something out of the Giant. I said, I'm Jim Cornette, not Merlin the Magician, but I'll try. So they wanted to have the Southern Boys milk like Bob Armstrong, prophetically enough, was going to be their partner. Because I suggested Bob because I've always loved the Armstrongs, because they're just great. And they said, yeah, but it would actually be the Giants. We'd have a 6-man at the Starrcade at the pay-per-view, where the people would hopefully by this time want to see the Giant pick me up and throw me away. So the first night that TBS was going to show the beginning of our program with the Southern Boys, where we first pissed on their leg or whatever, that was the same night of Halloween Havoc. So I figured, well, the Southern Boys are working with the Master Blasters. Everybody remember that classic team. So certainly the Southern Boys will get a win. And we're working with Ricky Morton and Tommy Rich, which, because Robert Gibson was out, that's a substitute team. So, and they hadn't done anything with Tommy Rich in years. So certainly we'll get a win, and maybe we can do a little something with the Southern Boys to further this thing that might make some, you know, some interest. So then, you know, they're giving us a finish, and Ole says, well, we need to get Ricky and Tommy over. Okay. And not, you know, I mean, still nothing against them, but it was not the rock and roll. It was, you know, a makeshift team. But okay, but the Southern Boys are going to come down, and they're going to cause it. They're going to cause a distraction. Oh, okay. Hey, this is making sense. And then in the Southern Boys match, the Master Blasters are going to beat them. What? But you're going to go down and cause a distraction? Well, okay, the heels still get the last word, so this is just, you know. And then the Southern Boys will grab you and pull you in the ring, and we've got a pumpkin. Ole is telling me this. We got a pumpkin, and we want them to stick the pumpkin on your head and have you run around like. I said, what? He said, yeah. I said, whose idea is this? He said, you know who? Mr. Hurd. I said, well, you tell Jim Hurd to take his pumpkin and stick it up his fucking ass. I said, you're not sticking a pumpkin on my head. I said, what good? Well, that's what he wants. You know, I said, well, I don't care. I said, we're starting to deal with these guys. What sense does it make to do all this and then have them finish it in the same night? And especially to get me when we're supposed to be building. I said, you know, it's ridiculous. I said, I'm not putting a pumpkin on my head, Ole. Well, goddamn, you know, I said, I don't know why that you would want to do any kind of an issue or a program around here in the right way, since we've got the commentators Dracula, the ring announcers Gunther Gable Williams, the Wicked Witch, and the Pumpkin are running around. And, you know, I said, why am I trying to be serious? He said, and then, see, and Ole hates Tennessee. Ole despises Tennessee wrestling and everything it stands for and everything. He said, well, he said, you know, it's just silly stuff. It's just something they do, something that Nick Goulas would have done. I said, no, Ole. I said, Nick Goulas drew money. Oh, he's hot, right? Oh, he's hot. And I mean, here's Rich and Morton and the Midnight, and there's Ronnie West and this and that guy and the other guy, the Southern Boys, they're all in there, and now Ole's hot, right? Because I'm, you know, oh, God damn it, I don't care what you do. We need to get a little chase scene and do something. I said, I'll tell you what, I said, don't worry, leave it up to me. I said, they'll get their thing. So that's when we had the Southern Boys. What I told them, I said, okay, I said, if they want to take heat off, I said, we'll take heat off, by gum. And they were making me wear this fucking Kentucky Colonel Confederate General's uniform, right? Which the pants were 2 sizes too big and the coat was 4 sizes too small, so I felt like I was in a sausage casing. And they said, now take care of the suit because we got to take it back to the costume place, right? I said, don't worry, I'll take good care of it. So I told the Southern Boys, I said, after the thing and the Master Blasters leave and everything, I said, reach out, grab me, pull me in, roll me in, throw my hat down and stomp the hat. Rip the jacket in half off of me. I'll come up and beg up, give me a big slam, turn me over your knees, spank me, I'll see if I can rip the pants or something like that. He stomp me around a couple of times and I'll go crawling out. And you know, and that way just all the heat will be completely off of it. So okay, fine, you know, great, whatever you want to do. So that's what we did, and then it worked so good that the people started feeling sorry for me. They started booing Tracy and Steve, you know. Oh, goddamn, he didn't do anything that bad, you know. So I mean, it was all fucked up, you know. That was the most stupid thing. Put a fucking pumpkin on my head, you know. Jim Hurd.
What would you tell him if you could sit down and maybe go over the things that went wrong today? What would you tell him?
Hurd?
Yes. Or Ole, or...
Well, we'd have to get an English to dumb shit dictionary first. I tried, you know, everybody tried to talk to him, and it doesn't, you know, it doesn't compute. So, I mean, you couldn't tell him, you can't tell him what's wrong, you know.
What do you think would have been the end result if that 89 Booker committee had been allowed to continue on the rate it was going?
Maybe a little better or a little worse than it is now. As long as TBS owns the company, it doesn't matter whether they got, you know, Shakespeare writing the shit or not. It matters not, because they're going to find some way to fuck it up as long as it's involved with TBS. So who's booking is immaterial. It's just, actually, it's not who's booking is immaterial. It's just as much as how much aggravation they're willing to take to get anything done. Right. And if they're willing to go through a little bit more aggravation, then it'll take longer for the shit to be really bad.
We're on the first shows you ever saw.
What now?
We're on the first shows you ever saw when we were young.
Jeez, I lived outside of Louisville, so I right about the same time I started watching Bruiser's TV from Indianapolis as I started watching Goulas's TV from you know, from either, well, he had like 27 TVs. It was Birmingham or Chattanooga or Nashville. Louisville got a variety. It didn't always get the Memphis show. It got a variety of shows depending on what was going on at the time. So we could see a show from Birmingham or the studio show from Chattanooga or one from Nashville or one from Memphis or whatever. So, you know, the Von Brauners and Fargo and Tojo and Jerry Jarrett or Bruiser and the Blackjacks and Heenan and, you know, Crusher and all that stuff. I was getting all of that shit. And then I had an aunt that lived in Cincinnati, so about one weekend out of every month we'd go up there and I could see the Sheik's TV from Detroit. So, and then if I visited my uncle out here in Oak Ridge, then I would get to see the Southeastern show or before the Southeastern show, this was actually a part of Nick's territory too, in a manner of speaking. There was a different promoter and everything, but he used the same guys. And then also, because Oak Ridge had cable like in the middle 70s, because it was such a small town, you know, they also got Channel 13 from Asheville, so I could see the worldwide show from Crockett, and then also they had TBS, well, when it was WTCG, so you could see Georgia Championship Wrestling. So I would just plan any of my trips to friends or relatives around what wrestling program was playing at the time, and then my aunt and uncle and all my family would go off fishing, and I'd sit home and by myself and watch the wrestling program.
Did Mama Cornette help get you involved in any of this?
No, she just tolerated everything. You know, patiently.
What did you think? What did your parents think when you said, I want to go into wrestling?
Well, I told her, my dad died when I was about 8. You know, well, you know, see, first thing, I'd been doing it already for, you know, 6 or 7 years, taking pictures and writing the program and ring announcing and any other stooge work that I could do to get, you know, do anything. And I mean, you know, she was all for that because, geez, I was making more money than I am now doing that, you know, because their business was so up, they were selling pictures hand over fist. So, you know, she said, whatever you want to do, you know. I mean, she no problem at all, and you know, always been supportive and everything because she knows I'm weird and I'm going to do something strange anyway. So, it's, you know, at least this is a quasi-legal activity.
Does she watch your shows today?
Well, she's in Louisville, so she can't, you know, can't see our shows. Or? Well, I don't even have time really to watch the tapes myself.
Mama Cornette?
She gets some stuff on occasion, and like when we went back to WCW, she watched that. And
should at least send her one of those T-shirts.
She watches Raw and everything. Oh, this is the only one I got.
No, the Mama Cornette.
Oh, the pig face. Well, we've done different things with her, you know, with her character and likeness. In the past, I've always sent her a tape. Like when the Rock and Roll brought the picture of the dog out with the glasses and the wig and everything, I sent her a copy of that. Like that. She likes shit like that. She likes all the guys too. She knows almost all these guys from you know, going to the matches in Louisville, you know, for years.
And people in her neighborhood, do they know her as? Oh, there's Mama Cornette.
Yeah, but they're scared to shit of her. Seriously, if somebody comes up the driveway to our house that she don't know, she'll meet him on the front porch with a daggum shotgun. And everybody around town knows it, so they just kind of, you know. Oh, nobody say anything to her. She'd stretch him.
Talk to you how to do interviews, or was there anybody who was a big influence besides Jerry Lawler? Was he the main influence?
Yeah, well, you know, I don't know whether anybody really taught me or not. I mean, you know, when I would do something bad, you know, they would say, don't do that. But I think just watching, that's what you got to do on your own, is just watch. And you can't just do an exact copy of somebody. You got to be yourself, but you can certainly pick up influences, you know, from whoever. And you go more toward people who you can be more like. Obviously, I'm not going to do Ric Flair's interview. I mean, even if I could do it letter perfect, it'd look a little stupid, you know. But you know, you just got to kind of look and kind of watch, and then you got to be comfortable, and you got to think of shit to say, and just kind of, you know, kind of do it. And growing up, you know, watching as many tapes as I did, and also just watching the Memphis TV, you know, Lawler was the guy just because there's nobody that could do it like that, and then also on tape, you know, I'd get to see, and when they would come through, you know, some of the other guys that were really good at what they do, and you know, and then also if you look and if you notice, you can watch people, you can learn more from really bad interviews than you can from good ones, because the really bad ones, you know, you're sitting there going, well, boy, he ought to be doing this and that instead of that.
Who were your favorite bad interviews?
Oh, Jesus Christ. Thunderbolt Patterson, I think, a perennial favorite. Doc was wonderful. I'm trying to think who was really, really putrid. Oh, well, yeah, that was later on in my career, you know. Yeah, I have a song I have to sing, and I'm going to sing it. I don't, you know, and he never did. I think, you know, Sonny King. Sonny King was, you know, every once in a while he'd come out and he'd do you remember he'd do a great interview that was just, boy, you understood everything, and he made some good points, and then for the next 6 months he'd come out and talk in so many goddamn circles, you almost screwed yourself into the ground trying to listen to him. And, you know, just, there's a lot of guys that just don't get the gist of whatever, but no, you know, Jeff is not, I mean, I wouldn't classify him as putrid or anything, you know.
He ranges at times.
So what's a day in the life of Jim Cornette like these days?
More like a night.
Well, I get up, depending on what I have to do during the course of the day. I got to get up earlier and make a lot more phone calls now than I used to. But I do all my shit at night because that's when nobody bothers me and I'm more alert. You know, so I try to do all my stuff at night. And I mean, it just depends on whether we're going to a show or, you know, I mean, from the time I get up, generally, with the exception of eating, and sometimes I eat while I'm either on the phone or, you know, writing or doing something. From the time I get up till the time I go to bed, something is related to wrestling in some way or another. You know, except for like once every couple or 3 weeks when I have to get away from everybody or I'm going to scream and commit homicide, and I just don't answer the phone, and I just either sit there and just watch TV and eat, you know, fattening food, or you know, just whatever, take off somewhere, get away from people for a little while. 'Cause I'm not a very social person. But I mean, I'm not really. I mean, I don't like, you know, I mean, I like, you know, talking to y'all. But
I think you're real shy too.
And introverted. You know, I mean, I like talking. Yeah, yeah. Sometimes it's misunderstood for being arrogant. But I mean, you know, I like talking to y'all because I mean, we're talking about wrestling, you know, and stuff like that. But you know, I just as soon, and I'm just as happy if I had nothing to do for the next 3 days, I'd go home, sit on the couch, watch TV, read, and fiddle with shit. You know, I don't need to go out. I see enough crowds, you know, when we're working. Sometimes crowds aren't as big as the ones I'd like, but I don't like to be in crowds unless they pay to see me.
Do you ever plan on having kids?
Boy, that takes a lot of patience. I have almost nil. You know, really, that takes an incredible amount of patience.
Yeah, but you could push them at the top.
That's right.
Oh, geez, I'm just going to adopt some that are 19 already, and that way I don't have to wait either.
You just found them. Just found out they were yours.
You know, I think the first time that there's a kid crying and screaming at 8:30 in the morning, and my wife wants me to get out of bed, you know, we're going to have major problems. You know, and I just, you know, yeah. So, you know, I like my dogs. I'm keeping my dogs because we can leave them at home alone. We may have to clean up after them, but at least we don't have to change them. And, you know, you can board them at the vet when you go out of town, and I check the vet don't take kids.
What kind of dogs you got?
West Highland Terriers, 2 of them. Muffy and Snuffles. I mentioned them today, as a matter of fact.
Yeah. When did you first realize this was a work when you started watching as a kid? How did you get the hang of it?
Geez, I don't, you know.
Was it like Santa Claus or anything?
Well, no, because, you know, when you first start watching and everything, you're like, well, you kind of know there's something going on, but you're not sure what. If you like it enough anyway, then if you gradually start seeing the same spot or you know, figuring anything out, it's like, well, geez, that was great. I mean, I always liked it even better just because, gosh, that was neat.
You never really thought it was real, you know, like your crowd does.
I mean, you know, maybe when I was a little kid, but I wasn't getting mad at anybody, and I always liked the, you know, like the heels anyway, you know. But I just like to watch it just because, you know. Just because I like to watch, you know, the shit going on. And then, you know, but I mean, geez, you know, that's another, they protected the business a lot in Memphis, and that was good because, it's, you know, same thing as we are here. That's why, you know, I mentioned to y'all when we first came in, to most of you, you know, and all of you are cool with our fans because we got the little Gilligan's Island effect here where a lot of these people are still good wrestling fans, which is that they will cheer the baby faces and boo the heels and, you know, like all the right stuff, so you don't have to kill yourself. And if we all want to keep on enjoying wrestling, we got to realize that we're the minority, and that if we've got a promotion that's just appealing to the people that like wrestling because they know it's work and they like the performance, and we're going out of business just like that because there ain't enough of those people. So, you know, they protected the business in Memphis. I mean, I was in the dressing room doing my first TV, and I didn't know half of what the fuck they were saying. I had no idea. I had no idea. Well, Jerry Jarrett said to me, I understand from speaking to some of the boys that you know that our business is a work. I said, yes, Jerry, because, I mean, I'd never come out and told him that I was smart. I just, you know, because, you know, I said, I'm not going to tell Jerry Jarrett I'm smart. He's liable to ban me from the dressing room. Or banned me from, actually, you were banned from the dressing room. Nobody went in the dressing room at all except the guys on the car, you know, so I was out at the door saying, you want me to ring the bell now? You know, which is the way it really ought to be, you know, but anyway, so that's what it was. I was in the dressing room at Channel 5, and half the words that the guys were using I still wasn't picked up on, you know, but I just went along and just, I'll do whatever they say.
Do you know how the terminology came to be? Like taping terminology?
Well, yeah, that was a lot of it a long time ago, you know, the Carney and everything like that, but a lot of stuff is just, I mean, geez, Arn Anderson has probably put as many words in the wrestling dictionary as any other human. Just when somebody likes the way that somebody talks, then they start picking it up, and it goes from territory to territory, place to place, or whatever, and, you know, pretty soon it just catches on. So a lot of conglomeration, different stuff. But anyway, yeah, that was, you know, that was it, and I just tried to keep my ears open and figure out what I was doing.
I keep thinking about that torch story you told about the in Memphis. They worked with the San Diego Chicken and they didn't smarten him up and he was in the finish.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think he knew a few things that he was supposed to do, but he didn't know what he wasn't supposed to do, and he definitely didn't know what was going on in the ring. He just knew that you know, like,
you had to do something.
You know, Lawler would always tell, or whoever was in the match would always tell, if somebody wasn't smart, like if they had a football coach or whatever, if so-and-so happens to jump up on the ring, then you, and, you know, I mean, we used to have to tell the cops, you know, you might ought to keep an eye on this match because if anybody was to run down there, they might have trouble getting through those people, you know. And I mean, shit like that because you couldn't come out and say anything, you know. But
not like now where they set up the camera and everyone turns their head to the back.
Oh, yeah. That's so ridiculous, you know.
I also noticed about your promotion, you make sure they come out different doors, which is totally different from anything going on in the major promotion.
Yeah, well, I mean, and sometimes there's only, you know, they can only come out one door. Like, you know, like at TV, generally, we have everybody come out to one side simply because you can't get entrance shots of, you know, two people two different ways, whatever the heck, you know. But I mean, whenever it's possible to come out two doors, that's the way it's supposed to be, you know. Yeah, and you know, it shouldn't be any other way.
Look, they must figure they're standing next to each other, not the same end.
Yeah.
What kind of rules are there here about faces and the heels being friends outside of the area or out of the arena?
I wouldn't ever want to see a babyface and a heel in this territory anywhere in a public place together. Even if they were in the same public place and they weren't speaking to each other, I'd still get hot if I found out about it. Not to say it doesn't happen, but they make sure I don't find out about it. I would go out of my mind. If whoever gets there first, it's theirs, you know.
Whether or not they're in a program with each other.
Matters not.
They don't ride in cars together either.
You know, because of some of our people live so far outside the territory, like when a guy's driving from Pensacola, you can't say, okay, Robert Gibson, you can't ride with Brian Lee or whatever, you know, because you're coming 500 miles. But once they get up to here, they need to split up and go their own way, or they need to have masks, or they need to, you know, stick each other in the trunk. I don't care what they do. You know, but if anybody ever just got together in a daggum car and just drove off out of the building, they could ride off into the sunset, you know, for what I would think about it.
What kind of effects do you think that would have here if people caught them, like out in a bar or something, having a drink?
Oh, geez, everybody in town would know about it in 2 weeks. Because, I mean, you know, because that's all these people have to talk about it. You know, like in, well, for example, in Morristown, you know, everybody knows Fuji because he's lived there for a long time, and everybody knows the wrestler. Well, like the guy, you know, we had some dinner last night, and the guy at the cash register at the Perkins said, I usually get off to come down there, but I couldn't get off tonight. So if I'd have been sitting there with Bob Armstrong, he'd have gone, oh, fuck, I don't need to do that shit anymore. You know.
And he's going to tell 30 other people.
I mean, it's not like when you're on TV and a place this size that you're anonymous. You know, like
that's the kind of thing that you could, you know, just kill the man for.
Yeah, exactly, and has before. And well, for example, you know, WCW no showing and not, you know, they come up here and they're supposed to be mad at each other, and there's no blood and no chairs and no sticks and you know, no nothing, and everybody's going, oh shit, you know. So that's the kind of thing that happens. But anyway, yeah, no, I'd be mortified.
Has it happened? I mean, have you caught anybody?
Well, I see, I don't go anywhere, but I heard about it one time that in Johnson City one time, a couple of the heels was over here on one side of the bar, and a couple of babyfaces over here on the other side of the bar, and somebody happened to mention it to me that didn't know any better, and I was real disappointed in those people, and they knew that I was disappointed and promised me that it wouldn't ever happen again. And they weren't talking or nothing, but still, you know, because people are going to say, well, why didn't he go over there and just punch him in the face? You know?
You can't take a chance.
Yeah, and besides that, you know how people are. They'll say, you know, if there's two people over here at the table and two people over here at the table, you know, and there's no communication or anything, somebody will go and tell a story. Oh, yeah, I saw them. They were laughing and joking and having a beer together, you know, because it magnifies. So, Brian, what time is it? Do I smell food, in other words?
6:52. Dinner is scheduled for quarter after 7.
Okay.
What time is it right now?
6:40.
What's your favorite type of match?
Do you say, have they got any soft drinks in there yet? Or?
They don't have soft drinks. They've got
One Altoid?
They have water,
I was about to say, they got tea, they got water, they got a major problem with me, because I need a Sprite. Kevin!
What, not a Diet Coke?
How are you, brother? Yes, this is the commissioner. Uh-oh, look, every camera spins around off of me.
All right, we're done with you.
Thank you, you can go.
It's like, oh, thanks, Jim.
Thank you very much.
Hi, guys.
Got something right here. So beauty contest.
How far in advance, I know this is not always necessary, always available, but how far in advance do you plan things out? Try to put things out.
Yeah, like when's your next 2 months worth tape or 3 months taping?
Yeah, we're going to Disney Studios. You know, I've got rough ideas of what I'd like to do with some things 6 months from now, or some things 3 months from now. I mean, I had the first tournament for the heavyweight title in my head, you know, approximately 2 years before the company started. You know?
How often do you book the arenas?
Well, I actually put it down on paper like 6-8 weeks, you know, but...
Reserve the date.
Book. I thought you meant book the card.
No, I mean, arrange the dates.
Knoxville Coliseum and Freedom Hall we got like through this time next year.
Really?
Yeah, you got to get dates, you know, to get dates that you want. Yeah, well, with Beckley, we had the dates. The problem is they got a TV station with football, you know.
Can I ask a question for Mr. Sullivan? Would you mind? Okay, turn your cameras.
We're going to work on it.
We were watching a tape not too long ago from Florida in around 86 or so, where you started going crazy. 87?
That was my fringe era. I started here on the fringe then.
What was the Brown LTD?
Brown LTD?
Yes.
You know, plain clothesman.
That you were reclined in?
Plain clothesman, you know, plain clothesman. All of you, what do they usually use? Woods, you know, LTDs.
Okay.
Obviously, you've led a sheltered life. You've never broken a law. Didn't follow me for a long time.
That's a mystery sort of that people have been asking that for years. What does that mean? I'll call this guy, and I'll call the next guy. Nobody knew.
That's
Here's
it?
one from when I was a kid.
That's it. That's it.
Here's one from when I was a kid, Kevin. I lived in San Francisco. Was that really your father, Bob, who gave a shoulder break? It was. Really was. That was the first match I ever went to.
Did you ever see the interviews?
Yeah.
He was really good because he didn't know what he was talking about.
So, are you coming up now for question answer for 2.5 hours?
I don't know if I can do it for 2.5 hours. The master is there ahead of me.
Gosh, I'm tired.
Let me tell you, and I'm going to try to get this as clear as possible. I think that people don't realize this is wrestling. This is not Sir Laurence Olivier doing Hamlet. This is Monty Python, the man with the silly walk. That's what it is. That's what it is, and it has become that. I think in this day and age, maybe I'm not politically correct. What is politically correct now? I mean, now you can't call anybody by ethnic slang. The neighborhood I grew up in, every one of us was an ethnic neighborhood, and we called each other those names, and it wasn't done in a malicious way. Now, if you say if you do the word, meaning Italian, dago, that's, you know, that can be harmful. I'm Irish, harp, somebody call me that. That's harmful. I mean, I can see how in wrestling we have taken stuff too far, okay? And, but that's wrestling. They'll always continue to take things too far because they've gotten out of the people, most of the people that create are creating 30 years ago. How long were the guys with German gimmicks and Japanese gimmicks around? Years. I mean, we went through three other wars after World War II, and the police action, they still had guys, and we're supposed to get out of it. I mean, yeah, I think you know, and the thing you said, you know, I never watched old tapes or anything. The other day, a guy gave me a tape, and I put it in.
And it was the 80s. It was era of excess. The whole country was excessive. I mean, and yeah, I think I went too far in a lot of. There was one in particular one I went too far, but I was forced to, and I'll tell you the funny issue. Article, you know, sometimes you're forced to do things, but people, you know, people can't understand why he did it. When the Florida office, when I went back there, right before they disappeared, they came to me, and I've been there 2 weeks, and they said, we need to we bring in the road warriors. And we're paying them this big guarantee. We have to draw $120,000 for the week, or we'll go out of business. So I said, boy, that's really put pressure on you, right? So Mark Lewin, who, a lot of you guys know who Mark Lewin was.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, at one time he was the creative mind in this business. I know Dave knows. In Australia, and he had when it was boomed, he said, I'll give you an idea, but it's going to cause a lot of problems, but I know we'll draw money. So I went to them and I said, I got this idea that he did with Baba in Japan. I said, it may cause some problems, but I think we'll draw money with the Road Warriors because they wanted the sixth man. They said, what is it? I said, well, get Mulligan, I'll get the bottle and crack it and get it. I said, but we're going to have problems. They said, we don't care, we need to draw the money. We went, we did the angle, did $144,000 for the week. They were delighted, you know, they're happy. The next week, people in Orlando called about the incident. They were on my ass the whole time. Oh, you went too far. I went too far, but they allowed me to go too far. I mean, you know, I'm not saying during that era, I was painting, and a lot of times, yeah, I was off the canvas, you know, and I was on the wall, and some of the stuff I was doing was pretty creative, but I know the other stuff that I was way out. Someone, they ran the company. I didn't run the company. Someone should have said to me, hey, maybe we need to get back to the canvas instead of this. But the deal is, when I did that, they wanted it. They wanted to draw the money. They didn't want the heat afterwards, but it doesn't matter. Their line is, and that's what I think that's what David sees more than anybody. They don't care. The thing for them is a black and white line, a black and red line. If they're in the black, it doesn't matter what you do. If you're in the red, you know, that's what it is. Yeah, I look back at it. Yeah, of course I did. I mean, there's some tapes I looked at and I said, wow, you know, I couldn't believe that, you know. But again, it was the time too. The 80s were and things go away.
If you were entirely political correct, that wouldn't mean that people at the Polo Club and the Fortune 500 companies would watch wrestling anyway, so why not take it to some extent?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think this thing about politically correct right now is really, you know, and I understand that we're in a different age and a different era, but, you know, sexual harassment is a real fine line. Can you tell a dirty joke in mixed company? No, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I don't know where we're going right now. I don't know if the country wants to go back to the 50s or they want to go further. I mean, we got a real division in our country. I really believe in the conservative right and the liberal, you know, left. I mean, it's a real, there doesn't seem to be too many moderates right now on any issue in this country. I mean, from the abortion issue to this tax thing, the deficit. I mean, there's nobody in the middle. I mean, everybody's on one side or the other side. And I think that's what the country is doing right now. It's trying to feel its way in which way we're going.
You better ask another question.
David, you must have been in the gym, huh?
Go ahead.
You've been in the gym today, huh?
No, not today. Not today, not to avoid.
What?
In fact, why don't you lead us in a little aerobics since none of us went to the gym today? Maybe
Well, you know, I used to work for a company and then now the lady runs it, right? Jane, doesn't she have a...
Oh, okay.
Yeah, doesn't Jane have one?
When did you pick up weight training? How old were you? Like a teenager?
I was 11 years old and I had rheumatic fever. They rushed me to the hospital and I was like in and out of it. They told my parents, stay overnight, he isn't going to make it. And I said to myself, I'm not going to die. And I was in bed for a year. At that time, they didn't know anything about cardiac, you know, heart thing. So they used to keep people bedridden. So they had me in bed for a year and I couldn't walk. So I said, I can't do this. And I started walking on my own. And there was I lived in a tenement building. You know, I lived in the ghettos, tenement buildings. And we had those long cellars. I don't know if you're familiar with the East Coast, but like, you know, downtown Frisco, the story village, yeah. Well, they had those long cellars. I started walking the cellar. My dad had weights, and I started picking up the weights then. And I did it for about 6 months. I went back to Massachusetts General Hospital. I couldn't find the scars. I suppose they had these real bad heart numbers. They couldn't find the scars. So they had me on all these tests, and then they called down this head of the cardiac division. She was a woman from Germany. She said to me, "What did you do?" I said, "Well, I'm in training." She said, "If you hadn't done it, you could have been maybe dead." She said, "You know, in Europe, we've been doing it for about 4 years." That was right after that, you know, when Dr. Paul Bragg came out, got the people that had heart attacks immediately. He had them walking the next day. So that's when I started about 11. But, you know, I was never really serious until I was in an odd until Tony out the shit.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then Tony said, "Hey, you know, if you enter a contest, I'll buy you everything." Okay, I'll die in there.
Was it like 79-ish?
That was 81.
81?
There you go. I won Tennessee, this Knoxville, and East Tennessee. And then after that, I went on a feeding frenzy for the last 12 years.
Just last couple of days from this one.
Were they?
I've never seen one.
Oh, really? Thank you.
The greatest that was being in the arena the first night was at the house across the street. He came out the doors there. Geez, what's going on over at the house?
Whoa! Hey, baby, oh, is that it? I want to see.
Take it, baby. You can do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, dinner is served.
Everybody thinks they can do Cornette. Okay.
Answer my 10 goddamns for the day.
Okay, so
somebody asked earlier how they get paid in Smoky Mountain Wrestling, percentage of the gate or guarantee. Actually, everybody gets $1 every time I say goddamn, and some of them are making more than Hogan.
right here. Yeah, get like shoulder to shoulder, just
okay. I come in last. So.
Are we all in here? So I'm gonna.
You're gonna start and I'm gonna come in.
Okay. I don't even know you're here.
Okay.
What am I talking?
That sounds familiar.
I don't even know what I'm talking. Okay, please be quiet. If anything happens, oh boy, please. Well, there you have it, fans. Peyote Jeff winning the first NCWA tournament and is the new National Creative Wrestling Alliance World Heavyweight Champion, and I'm sure that it is unanimous among everybody that this will be a fighting champion and the greatest champion of all. Peyote Jeff, the greatest world, what in the world?
Hey, wait a minute, little man. Let me say, first of all, hey, that's nice. How many times do you have to flush to get this just like that? Let me just say this. I can't believe that Peyote Jeff won that title when I know a man that was in that tournament that had more potential. I know a man in that tournament had more talent. I know a man in that tournament had more ability than anybody that I've seen so far in this entire world of professional wrestling. I'm talking about the man that gets all the pussy, J.R. Benson. And I know that if he had me as a manager, as an advisor to guide him and just mold a few things and watch out for his contracts, I know that he would have won that title, and I'm disgusted that he did not become the new NCWA heavyweight champion.
Jimmy!
Jimmy!